100% see if you can actually take a shot at winning the game here and now and stamping PGG's chances out completely from going to Worlds.
Pensnet had never lost a domestic best of 5 before tonight, now staring down the barrel of a potential trio. Abby jumps in, goes Golden. Pub, who survives for the meantime. Hector Golden Maiden, that's the target, that's the Zonia status. He's going to fall on down there with the solid flare. He's going to fall on down. It's just too much damage. Rest in peace. They've got their revenge. They've claimed their throne. Peace are going to Worlds.
Every player says they're the best and says they're going to win, but you know when you mean it and you know when you're just saying it.
The only thing that's stopping us from getting from MSI is ourselves.
You go into it as a team and you leave as a team, win or lose. No matter what happens, I want to have no regrets, you know.
Always just hunting for like the next chance to like go to the international stage and like prove myself.
The reason why I want to come to LCO was just, you know, for Worlds. Like, I didn't come here for the money.
We just have to run the gauntlet. I've never had to do this before, actually.
I think everyone knows that we are the team to beat, like right now.
Basically, it's a two-man league. Everyone's known it.
Expecting grand final to be us versus Chiefs in absolutely pop-off games that are just clutch through team fights and like individual stand-up performances.
We're just going to take each opponent one at a time. I think Chiefs will be like the final step of showing that, you know, we're the best in-Os.
Well, seeing as Gravitas aren't in the playoffs, I don't think Peace are very scared of any team. I don't think Chiefs are unbeatable, but they're definitely a team to beat.
We've shown that like we're better than every team, and like every single player on the team has like carried a game. So I think that like if we don't deserve it, then no one from this region does.
The only other AD carry in the league is basically Raze. I think he'll win matchups he's meant to win, he'll lose matchups he's meant to lose. If he's in a really good form, then he could be very hard for us to take down.
As long as all 5 of us can play the game, we're gonna win, for sure. I might try and have a bit of fun to make it at least entertaining when we do eventually just smash everyone else.
I think some people have like the idea that Order as an org is like a playoffs org, like, you know, like previous rosters, but I think that's a bit cringe. I think the real reason is we just have the better players in individual roles. But I think once things get together, and we will be contending for that top spot.
I think Direwolves actually have like found their play style where they can actually be the kryptonite to very good teams and take them out.
This split might be the split that I win, so try not make it too easy for me.
Because once we're on the same page, I swear we can win these games.
I think we're definitely the only team that should be taking this title.
I really mean it when I say that I think we have this covered. I think we have the best team, I think we have the best players, and I think that we've come into our stride and now it's finals time, and I don't think we can lose.
The combo, it hits again. Kevy, he's done it one more time. The Chaos Storm, Claire jumps in with the Grand Slam. But in a 3-man Moonfall, and it's just lights out for Direwolves, just like that.
The showstopper, look at the backline, it's getting melted.
Something right now, Sonic Wave is there, it's getting lower and lower. Oh! They've stolen it! Mammoth have got the Baron. He's gonna fall on down, it's just too much damage. Rest in peace!
Yeah, no, Mac, it's fine, mate. It's just playoffs, dude. Like, how hard could it really be? I mean, we're live, Mac. I'll talk to you later, mate. Sorry, you guys had to hear that. You know, it is obviously LCO playoffs time here, and yes, unfortunately, it is not Mac that's sitting in the hot seat today. It is going to be me, Fluke, or you guys can just call me Luke for short. I'll be taking you guys through the proceedings for today, and that is right. It is the playoffs time here in the LCO for Split 1 of 2022. It's been 9 long weeks for us to get here, and we've only got 5 teams that are left remaining who are going to be fighting for the title here in the LCO, and also a free trip over to MSI to see if they can test their mettle up against the best teams in the world at League of Legends. So without further ado, before we start getting into the playoffs, let's catch everybody up to speed with last week's matches.
Now they're just trying to see who can find that kill. It is to be Puma. Has to save a store. Oh, great restraint. In goes Bio. Mega comes back to. Voice dodges it. Slams him into the wall. Fire Panther with the fadeaway boulder.
Just throws the building at him.
There's Tron against the world. The ult there.
17 gold lead is going to become pretty difficult to deal with as the wallet is absolutely slap at him. Yuri every 4 seconds, slap at him.
Yep, he's certainly got that voice seeker connecting on that key side, open from afar, ready to lock them down, and there it is again. He sniped out nobody. They're all so low they can't hard engage because they're just getting ripped apart from afar. This Herald has found infinite value. The Roffelcopter comes out and knocks away Beats. Liv on the side, 1v2, using the pass to try and get that crit. He needs magic resist, he doesn't care about armor. The Baron's been taken, the Baron's been stolen. Now a fight breaks out, up they go and down they crash. Is they gonna find...
Oh, there was some heat on the Rift last week for those teams as they headed in towards the end of the regular split of 2022. And those guys, unfortunately, some of them have already met the door and they are sitting at home as we watch towards our playoffs today. So we thought, what better way for us to go into the playoffs without bringing in one of the Smurf junglers from last week? So let's bring in our casters for today. We've got Skimmy and Maximize, Mr. Worldwide, the supermodel in the server. Lads, what a fun day that we've got ahead of us. And Maximize, I just want to, before we start getting into everything, let's talk about your performance last week, mate. How good did you play?
Yeah, look, they cut the best clip from that Secret to Play and they inserted a word that probably shouldn't have been said on broadcast. But anyway, besides that, yeah, it was fun to get back, but I'm glad to be back here on the desk.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see what we can get through today. And Skimmy, mate, playoffs time, baby.
Yeah, playoffs is really good. As Max said, you know, they definitely cut the best clip, which is when he died at the very end there. So he's going to be feeling great. You know, he's not now in the hot seat. He's on this side of the fence tonight.
Yeah, he gets to watch the action instead of being a part of it. But lads, let's have a look at our standings at the end of the regular season because it has been a wild ride for everybody at home and even these teams as well. We had our ups, we had our downs, and eventually we're able to figure out our top 5 teams so far. And look at this, the Chiefs 19-2 max. The fact that these guys only lost a map to Peace as well as Pentanet goes to show that these guys are hot contenders for the title this year.
Yeah, Luke, they've been absolutely dominant from the get-go of this split, right? I mean, the only real questionable performance you could say has been against PGG in these last couple of weeks in their most recent matchup. But apart from that, definitely looking like the team to beat heading into playoffs. We do have a tie at 2-3 with Peace and PGG. You know, PGG coming into playoffs off the back of an 8-win streak, the longest by far of any team coming into the playoffs.
Yeah, these guys certainly have a bit of red hot form, but Peace being able to get themselves a 2-1 head-to-head means that they are in that second slot and get themselves a side selection for today. But Skimmy, unfortunately, we had to say goodbye to Kanga, Mammoth and Gravitas at the end of the regular split. But I mean, those guys, they still had moments of brilliance as well.
They certainly did, yeah. Certainly, we pegged Kanga as being that 5th and final team to get that playoff spot, right? Direwolves upset the balance and showcase that no, rookies can in fact outperform that veteran status. So certainly some teams that sad to see gone, but certainly got their eyes set towards Split 2.
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously with us heading in towards playoffs, the spotlight is on these 5 teams that we've got for this double elimination bracket. So, I mean, at this point, I think this is a perfect time for us to say goodbye to our teams so far. So let's start out here with Mammoth here, Max. And these guys came in red hot at the start of the split. They came off the back of this 4-man squad. They brought up from a university league. They brought in their star little mid laner in Refury. And these guys, they came out hot to trot.
They did. They had an absolutely banger start to the split. I mean, they were really exciting to watch, you know, with performances like Refury on the Trendemir, completely solo carrying games. They were just always a really exciting and unpredictable team, and you can see their voice just brings a real energy to the team, and I love to see that from rookies. I love to see their confidence, and I'm super excited to see how these players grow into Split 2.
Yeah, and I think just watching the way that these guys worked out on the player cans, right, Skimmy, just goes to show that these guys might not be letting the, you know, what's happening on Summoners Rift really affect them because they seem to come in with a smile in every single interview and they're looking towards Split 2 to try and make it towards that playoffs and see what else they've got left in the tank.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, they came into a series up against Pentanet, right, and actually beat them and defied expectations completely. We definitely said, you know, this is not a team that we expected to go all the way to playoffs, but to get victories like this was absolutely phenomenal. So perhaps they suffered a bit from, you know, their early success in this one because they did cop a lot of L's later on to the split. It definitely did become a bit of the voice show, the 1v9 angle for them, but certainly got a great premise, a great foundation to work on going forward.
Yeah, I think they came into the split with a few wacky ideas, you know, playing out some of these weird drafts they came into, and then towards the end of the split, I think teams really started to give them a whole lot of respect when we came onto the Summoners Rift because it felt like these teams were understanding how they wanted to play, really understanding the kind of angles that they needed to get these dubs, and the fact that they're able to do it in such a fashion just goes to show that heading in towards Split 2, I'm excited to see what they can do. And just more pop-off from these guys, right? Like the fact that every single interview we saw from Refury, he'd come in, he'd smile, he'd wave, voice would be bouncing off the walls for every single one of them. I'm just excited to see what those guys can do for another split when they get a little bit more experience under the belt. But Max, Kanga was a team that even Skimmy said himself, everyone was coining these guys to be the 5th and final slot in towards these playoffs, but unfortunately starting out a little bit slow in the split, and then even with a few of these roster changes, weren't able to get enough wins on the board to get into playoffs.
Yeah, I think with players of these caliber, it's obviously not the finish that you're wanting. I think that definitely in Split 2, that they will be performing better than this. You know, internal team drama and stuff that happens with roster shakeups, you know, it happens to the best of us. So I think that, you know, I'm glad to see them having Scott and Fido in here and looking like they're pretty solid. I'm getting some experience together before they head into Split 2. You know, with only remaining on the coaching staff, they do actually have a lot of veteran experience, which is really useful when you have such a young team. So I'm definitely expecting that Kanga is not out, and I think for Split 2 they will be challenging for a playoff spot.
Yeah, certainly. They look like they were on a bit of an upward trajectory, you know, once they started to get their footing with Scott and Fido in towards that mid-jungle duo, when they're able to actually figure out how they wanted to play the game right, Skimmy. And then obviously, as Max did just say, with only still on the coaching staff, they can give that experience back to these younger players and come back stronger for Split 2.
Yeah, and I think that's a big reason why we certainly chalk them in as being one of those front runners to make it to playoffs, right? When you look at the likes of Chungy, Oni, and Liv in that roster, tons of experience, tons of high-quality caliber players. We're thinking, yes, this is a team that can certainly, you know, challenge for that. But as Mac roster shuffles, a few change-ups, it felt like the goal or the idea really changed from trying to make it into playoffs much more towards let's develop, let's figure out what works for us, let's form those pillars and work our way into Split 2 for a much stronger showing.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the story for all three of these teams that we've said goodbye to today, is the fact that they're looking towards Split 2, they're looking to try and get those improvements going forward. And I think also a player to mention is Lionel making that transition from ADC in towards that support role. He now will have a little bit more experience under his belt, and I'm sure Split 2 is going to be a better performance from those guys as well. So I'm excited to see if we're going to have more shakeups going in towards the playoffs of Split 2, or whether or not it's going to stay the status quo here. Another team that was a little bit exciting for us to watch as well has been Gravitas, and these guys came in, they had roster shuffles all across the Rift, except for that middle lane, Max, and I think he is the shining star here, Dejong. The fact that he's able to come into so many of these matchups, really just put the aggression onto the Rift and try and get these solo kills and carry his team to victory.
Yeah, he's one of the many mechanically outstanding rookies who I think have entered the league. You know, having, of note, his Silas performance versus Peace, completely 1v9ing the game, just having a really, really strong split and a really strong showing. And I think that, you know, despite the roster shuffles that were happening around him, he was able to remain relatively consistent, having carried performances whenever his team needed him to. So again, one of the players I'm really looking forward to seeing, you know, if he's able to level up with the stable roster, with the stable coaching staff heading into Split 2.
Yeah, I think you know, it's obviously a little bit sad times for these teams right now, not being able to be a part of the playoffs, not being able to get into these full best of fives and really showcase what they can do against the best here in Oceania. But these guys certainly have had shining moments, and they're moving forward in the Split to come back stronger, really try and make a push towards that playoffs, because we saw throughout the split, lads, the fact that how close it was between a whole lot of these teams, that you'd coming into a lot of these series, yeah, you'd have your favorites, but even some days we had complete upside down days, Skimmy, where every single underdog story came through and got the dub.
Yeah, sometimes it just works that way, right? And you're not sure really if it's the team underestimating him or the team just playing completely unshackled without any fear in the world. And I think Gravitas certainly fell into that category a few times, right, where it's just the case of they've switched the nameplates off, they've forgotten about the players, the caliber, the experience, the titles, all that, and they've just said, look, this is what we play, this is what got us to this point, from solo queue to competitive landscape, and this is what we want to sort of showcase to the broadcast as a whole. So really looking forward to what those three teams can do to upskill and to, you know, showcase again.
Yeah, exactly. I'm excited to see what they can do for a whole new split here in the LCO. But let's go and have a look at our playoffs bracket, because that's what's going to be taking in everybody's minds for the next couple of weeks here. We've got 5 teams left remaining. 3 of them, pardon me, are in this upper bracket. Peace, Pentanet, and the Chiefs. They get the round off here, lads, and they get to sit nice and pretty in that round number 2. But Max, this is where we start to set our sights on these teams in the lower bracket. Backs against the wall. You cannot drop any series here if you order or die, Wolves.
Yeah, Biopanther mentioned it in his player interview, but I think having the prospect of having to run the gauntlet, you know, play potential 4 series in the playoffs is a really tough task, and I think it's going to be really exciting and a good test of teams' durability and depth as not only players but how they draft as well. Coming into these weeks where, you know, you could be playing back-to-back games, a best of 5 series, you know, in the coming weeks. So I think that the lower bracket is definitely really exciting. You know, every match being an elimination just adds that extra sense of excitement and tension.
Yeah, I think that's really where you get the best League of Legends out of everybody, just putting them in that elimination bracket and force them to play the best they can. But also, Skimmy, another interesting point for us is the fact that it's Peace and Pentanet they're going to be starting out in the first round, and usually they're the 2 teams that we see in our grand finals here in the LCO.
Yeah, the LCO era really has belonged to those 2 teams, right? It's the first time they've not found themselves in the upper bracket getting a bye round, really. So the Chiefs have come into this one and look to try and stamp their authority and showcase that, you know, the region as a whole, the OS history, the pedigree has been always belonging to Chiefs, and we're here to answer back once again and try and upset the balance that has been, as you say, very much PGG Peace-centric.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how the playoffs do pan out and see whether or not we have completely new grand finalists for this split here in the LCO. But lads, playing on a different patch today, so let's start talking about some of these patch notes. 12.5b has been brought upon us here for playoffs, so we're going to have a few of these adjustments floating around. So Max, you being the big brain in the jungle, I want you to start talking through everybody at home these buffs, nerfs, and adjusteds.
Yeah, so I think the overwhelming message of this patch is the bot lane changes. So obviously nerfs to Jinx and Aphelios, the two real mainstays of the AD carry meta. I don't think this will necessarily push them out completely. I still think they have a very strong pace as, you know, the scaling hyper carries. But what's really interesting is buffs to like champions like Ashe, Draven, and Lucian. We see these champions not really too much. They're more unconventional picks, but I am expecting that the bot lane meta might be a bit shaken up, right? We do have players here in the league who love playing the Draven, like Raze and Puma, and the Ashe as well as a mainstay, just offering that extra utility that you don't really get from these other champions. So I think we could be seeing rather a potential different take on how teams want to draft around this bot side of the map.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to be setting their attentions in that second series with Order and Direwolves going head-to-head with, you know, champions like the Lucian and the Ashe and the Draven that are floating around now. We might see a few different of these ADCs floating around. But Skimmy, we have a few more of these things to talk about here with the patch notes, and I think a good one for us to touch on is the fact that Locket did just receive a nerf now. So making sure that these, you know, these tanky supports aren't just as tanky anymore.
Yeah, an incredibly strong item, right, for the mythic option when you're looking at a support player that's looking to try and get as much as they can out of a very limited economy. Has been a go-to for your likes of Nautiluses, Leonas, and Freshers, and so on. So I'm not sure if it's going to be enough to try and push them out of this item completely into stuff like Shrillers and whatnot, but certainly with the absence of a lot of these players deviating away from the Aftershock of Rune Choice into the Glacialants, they're going to be a little bit squishier overall, but the shield, at the end of the day, just that free tanky stats, always going to be viable.
Yeah, it's always going to be viable, is, you know, just trying to give these supports a little bit more of these options and not try and make sure that everyone's shoehorned into this one broken item. But I'm excited to see what this patch does change for us, to see whether or not these teams will actually try and change it up, considering the fact that going into players is all important for these teams. Let's start having a look at these team stats, so lads, because I think this is really important for us to touch on. We touched on it a little bit earlier on in the split, and now looking at it here in playoffs, Max, we see these teams that are really high up in these standings that we're giving everybody for these playoffs really starting to take out a whole lot of these stats.
Yeah, and I think what's really interesting is how these stats sort of speak to how the top teams want to play the game, right? So if you look at the stats where PGG is leading, such as damage per minute, first blood percentage, and first tower percentage, they've always been characterized as a super aggressive feast or famine type style of team. And I think that's really representative in how they play. And same for Chiefs, right? They're at the top of the leaderboards. They're leading in kills per game and gold per minute. And gold per minute is really the biggest stat, I think, as a team. That's important to lead in and is representative of your place in the league, because if you're getting the most gold, you're obviously doing the most around the map. So I think that it sort of speaks to their styles, whereas PGG is a super aggressive team, Chiefs are this more controlled, measured, win the game properly, close it out, more textbook style of game.
Yeah, and I think, you know, obviously looking across at some of those averages as well, these teams are the high performers of our league for a reason, right? It's giving the fact that these guys are up in the tops of the playoffs and they're really starting to take out a lot of these stats, and it goes to show.
Yeah, I mean, Chiefs, as Max said, is certainly in a league of its own, right? Getting the most kills. They've got solo kill machines like Tapoon, for example. Goal difference, obviously allowing them to get the huge snowballing advantages, right? They're not going to go in and make these crazy, you know, one-for-one trades all the time, but they're certainly going to look to play very calculated League of Legends. The biggest one, though, for me that stood out was the fact that Pensnet, 90% of the time, got the first turret. Also, the same could be said for the first 3 turrets. That's an insane average across, 21 games, given the average is only 50%. So certainly the aggression with 2 key characters in Balcard and Praetor is paying off big time.
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly when you see these stats in comparison to the entirety of the league. But that's something we have to talk about a little bit later on in the broadcast as well, because it is finally time for everyone's favourite segment. I know it's Max's favourite segment. It is time once again here for From the Fans, ladies and gentlemen. This is a spicy one for us here on the desk as well, because it is your OS All-Star team of all time, ladies and gentlemen. So any player that has played throughout Oceania, whether they've gone international, come back, whatever, you can put them into a team and get them onto the Twitter, and we'll show them up here on the broadcast. So lads, before we start getting into the From the Fans, I want to hear from you guys on the desk. Skimmy, mate, bot support duo, go.
Yes, so once upon a time when I first began playing League of Legends, I was a big fan of watching Radier in that AD carry position. The guy was absolutely smurfing. First hit challenger in the region, showcasing that he was, you know, the pedigree, the standard. And he was just smurfing at university on the side, right? So he decides, you know, League isn't for me. In comes Raze to fill the biggest of shoes that you've ever seen. So Radier for me, certainly. In support, I've actually gone for Isles. I feel like Isles is like the fudge of supports. He came in absolutely smurfed and is, you know, OCS, working his way into OPL, then into LCO. Now, obviously, got on to do fantastic things over in NA. So that would be my bot lane duo, yeah.
All right, nice. Max, top jungle duo, go.
Yeah, so he doesn't play the role anymore, but for top lane, I'm going to have to go with Fudge. I think it's a very similar story to Isles in that they've sort of been, he's been storied for his entire career. You know, very hyped as this young prodigy who's able to come into pro play immediately and go to Worlds, right, in his first season. Not many players can say that they've done that. And now, obviously, in the LCS, playing mid lane now on Cloud9 alongside some of the best players in the world. So definitely my all-time top lane GOAT. For jungle, I've gone with Shernfire. Shernfire has been notorious as probably the best solo queue player out of OS ever. You know, reaching top 5 in Korean solo queue. Just a mechanical god. Hasn't had as much pro success as I think some other junglers like Babip, but I think that in terms of raw skill, he's who I'd go for.
All right, lads, before we start going for the final position here, I believe that we do have one from the fans. So let's have this one. Let's bring it up and let's see if we can rate this full 5-man stack for you guys at home. So we've got Fudge in the top lane, we've got Babip in the jungle, Ryoma in the mid lane, FBI as the ADC, and Destiny as the support. Skimmy, how are we feeling about this one, mate?
That's a very strong roster, isn't it? Certainly have accomplished a lot together already with a lot of these players. And yeah, all got on to do great things, right? All of these players have got on to play overseas. So the only one that really looking at right now is Babbitt back in the region. He's a substitute jungler. That's just how good Chiefs are right now. He's playing as a coach. So, I mean, this is a very star-studded roster.
It's kind of wild when you have a look at the substitutions for a lot of these teams and see how stacked their rosters are. Max, out of 10, how good do we feel like this team is?
Out of 10, look, yeah, I would give it a solid 9.5. The only alterations I would make to that one personally are probably putting Ayla to start. Look, he hasn't obviously played as many games in the LCS as someone like Destiny, but I think in terms of potential, like we saw him when he had to sub in for Core JJ, and he's just a monster in the league for how young he is. So yeah, a very good roster as well.
Seems like Isaac McIntyre was able to get himself a pretty decent squad that's going up there. So, I mean, maybe as we get deeper into the broadcast, lads, we can see some even more goated kind of squads that we've got here for OS. But ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to start talking about our first matchup. But before we start talking about it, we heard from the players. So let's hear from them.
Honestly, Peace was a really good team at the start of the split, but the end of split, they really fell off, so I don't really care about them at all. We'll 3-0 them easily.
Pentanet are really good when Balkan is ahead, so I definitely think if we can get Balkan off Comfort Champions and like basically shut him down early, he's less confident to make the plays. Easiest way to shut down Pentanet.
This team's kind of been all figured out. I don't think they really stand a chance against any of the playoff teams.
If you give RP any of the champions that he wants to play, he's just gonna mid-gap you.
The jungler, he's good, but then sometimes he's really bad. It's like Bitcoin, he's just going up and down.
Yo, Pentanet, you guys got some really fire content, no cap. Your content is really lit, so when you guys lose, I hope that you guys can make the content pretty funny because I always like watching your content.
They should start packing up and go back their home. Yeah, so it'll be a really quick game.
It's always interesting to hear from Mr. Winterer about, you know, his thoughts about certain things and the way that stuff does pan out. Hey, I mean, every single time we get one of those head-to-heads between the players, they always do talk a lot of smack between each other, and I enjoy it. You know, coming into a full best-of-5, this is where you get to put everything on the Rift, right, Skimmy? This is where you put in all that practice, you put in all that emphasis, because throughout the entirety of the split, these guys have been talking about being best-of-5 teams, and I think Peace has been a good showing of that as well. They've come in to the split, looked pretty hot at the start of the split, but now with a little bit of this lack of form, maybe best-of-5 is where they shine.
Yeah, it's a really good talking point, right? Because it certainly is, as far as things go between both these teams, there has been that big showdown. Both looking to try and get as many series as under their belt to showcase dominance in the region. And they'll be coming into this one, right? A lot of these players were substitutes for that roster, the Worlds attending roster of last year, and they've got the limelight put on them, right? So they've surely come in and sort of smurfed, really, defied all expectations in those initial weeks. But it feels like from, what, patch 12.3, I believe, those weeks onwards, a few upsets. I don't want to say it's like skill checking or just like champ selecting, but we have seen a lot of deviation in the top lane, primarily from Tien. And you're starting to say, okay, all these best-of-1 stage game examples, has that been enough, recipe for success and to come to a best-of-5 and say, we've got the depth, we've got the champion pools, and we've got the caliber to win?
Yeah, I guess that's the real question that we're going to get answered here in our first best of 5. But the other team on the other side of the rift here is going to be Pentanet.gg and Max. These guys have come in with a whole lot more form going towards the end of the regular split. The fact that they were able to take down the Chiefs when they're hitting their stride as well goes to show that these guys are certainly ready for playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely, Luke. It's almost the tale of two coins here with them and Peace. You know, Peace having a really hot start to the split. Pentanet really didn't start off too well at all, but coming in now, they are on an 8-win streak, the most out of any team by far, and they've just looked so good. You know, being able to beat the Chiefs has only happened twice this entire split, so it's no easy feat, and they just look so confident, they look so unstoppable, that I'm super excited to see them play in this series.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of one of those tales, right, where you look at Peace, you look at Pentanet, they were both the two teams that took down the Chiefs in their peak form. And now, as we look towards a bit more recently, it goes to show that Pentanet might be in that little bit more of that extra form going in towards playoffs. But I think things completely change when we start getting in towards these best of 5s, right, Skimmy? Because that's where teams really show their depth in their drafting and really show how they can adapt from game to game.
Yeah, I mean, I look at Pentanet right now, and it's starting to, you know, it was a weak start for them. You sort of look at where they stood in the rankings. You're thinking, okay, how far up the ladder can they really go? But I feel like they were always playing second fiddle to Peace in terms of getting kills, getting gold leads, trying to snowball some map advantages. But as we saw from those sort of demographics earlier on, you know, they found their strength in claiming first turrets, utilizing those ganking angles with a more exposed map to now pull ahead. So the last few weeks for them, for me, have certainly been a case of playing around key components of their team. They've introduced Pradev into a role where he can truly excel. I feel like the communication's been a lot clearer, right? There was those games where we sort of like a Talia and a Twist of Fate both doing separate things. So I feel like they've come together, and there's been a big example of them finding synergy.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they can do today in a full best of 5. But lads, before we start getting into that, we have to bring Kitty into the conversation. So let's say hello to Kitty for the first time for tonight and see what she's got going here on the sidelines. Kitty, before we get in the interview, questions. Peace versus Pentanet. Who do you feel like's got the better form going in today?
I'm going to be real. I don't want to spoil my predictions for later because it's going to ruin the stream, I guess. But let's just say the team starting with P is going to be better.
Oh, true.
She's not wrong.
Hey, I like that. I like that, Kitty. I like that. So who you got here for the interview?
So I've grabbed Lisa for tonight's interview as we head into this best of 5 series. So first best of 5 for the split. Do you feel any pressure from expectations being the higher seed of the two?
Not really. Like personally, I don't feel any pressure. Like, I've been playing a lot of BO5, so like I'm ready.
And you've actually been with Peace for 2 years, saying yourself that you've played a lot of best of 5, so reigniting an old rivalry from 2021. How has the team identity changed since the last year, bringing on the additions such as Tien and Cheon and Beats?
With some new players coming into the team, and like we feel fresh. So like it's still like the rivalry, right? It's PG, but they changed their players too. I don't think like we're not gonna have any pressure on ourselves. We're just gonna perform like we do as usual, and just gotta play the best.
Hopefully we do see the best performance coming out of Peace tonight. And my last question is that you guys are currently 2-1 in the head-to-head against PG. What is going to be the strength of Peace going up against PG tonight?
Like as the interview said, like the jungler Balkan, the key player for the team. If we can shut him down early, we can like just run them down.
Well, you heard it from here first, guys. Lisa said that Balkan is going to be shut down on the Rift tonight. Well, Lisa, I'm going to let you go, and best of luck in your series.
Thank you.
Well, who knows? Maybe it might not be some TikTok builds coming in here from Lisa tonight. Maybe you might have a few different strategies coming in to try and shut down Balkan. But Kitty, it was good to hear from those guys. It seems like they're nice and cool and calm coming into this best of 5.
Definitely very cool and calm. Can't feel any extra pressure coming into tonight's games because you are playing a best of 5 series where morale is really important for these long series. So I'm expecting all teams to have their best performance coming into tonight's games, and hopefully we do see them get the wins.
Yeah, I mean, super important to see these guys go forward, obviously getting yourself that extra life in the upper bracket. But Max, after that interview with Lisa, did that give you any more confidence here in Peace?
I think I loved how he's just a stone cold killer, like not feeling any nerves, not feeling any pressure. He's just ready to perform, and I think he personally had a very good showing against Balkan in the earlier game. So I think he's feeling, that momentum, I guess, from their previous performances. So I'm just really excited to see how they match up.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how these two junglers go head-to-head. But Kitty, I believe you got another player here from Pentanet to have an interview with.
We actually have 2 interviews back-to-back, and I've grabbed Rogue for the second interview. So, Rogue, I was informed by previous PGG interviews where the boys actually consider waking up at 4 p.m. as early. So, how energized are the boys heading into tonight's best of 5?
Yeah, we do wake up late. Well, the boys wake up late, but it's good. It's like you got to value what you believe makes you good, and if the boys believe getting that extra bit of sleep makes them good, then that makes them good. Me, on the other hand, a glass of orange juice. Orange juice one shot, I'm done. I'm ready. It's placebo effect. Plus, new jerseys. We're looking clean. Tell me I can lose when I look this good.
Very clean
I'm dapper
indeed.
with that as suit.
Looking great as always, Rogue. Well, talking about Peace, you guys are currently having, well, we were talking about team statistics earlier, and PGG actually has the shortest average game time sitting at 80 minutes. Sorry, oh my god, 28 minutes with 21 seconds, while Peace has the longest game time sitting at 30 minutes and 52 seconds. What is your take on this?
My take is that good teams know how to close out games, and even versus bad teams, they still win fights. And I said this time and time again that I don't believe we can drop a game to Peace, but if we do, I think the only way it happens is we get so far behind that we're still barely going even in team fights while 5k gold, but they're like just scraping ahead. In fights they should stomp, and then it just gets to a point where they get Elder and win. So I think that's why their game time length is so long, because we can end without an Elder, we stomp it. But as I said, yeah, not all the teams can do that.
Well, it's great to hear your insight, Rogue. I'm going to let you go, and hopefully we do see that jersey diff coming into play for tonight's Best of 5 series, and best of luck.
Thank you.
It is always good hearing from Rogue specifically. I think his interviews has been the most entertaining that I've seen so far throughout the split of the LCO. He always seems to come in with this this energy, this gravitas, and now the fact that he's got himself a new jersey as well here, Kitty. It's super exciting to see how he can try and get that into the Rift.
Looking as dapper as always. I saw on Twitter that he actually has the name Rogue on his sleeve, so maybe we get some sneaky sneak peeks from those player cams as we head into tonight's series.
Maybe a bit of player cam flexion for these guys as well. As you did see on your screens as well, ladies and gentlemen, Peace did pick the blue side to stay out here as well. So going into the rest of this best of 5, we'll be having side selection be changed as we go through it. But ladies and gentlemen, I believe it is time once again here for the Dare fan vote. So you guys at home can use your channel predictions. You can put them into the chat. I believe it'll be up right now. You guys can predict who you think is going to win this game, and you guys can do it each game as well as we go through the entirety of this series. But with that out of the way, ladies, it is time for us to start talking about our own predictions here on the desk. For those of you who are smart at home, wait, Rusty's not here on the desk. Where's Maximize? Where's Fluke's predictions? They're not here. I'm going on the train with Max, so I'm going to be with everybody in the Twitch chat. So before we start getting everybody else's Max, I want you to say it out aloud. Who you got?
Yeah, I'm so surprised that everyone's gone for Peace. Personally, I predicted that PGG would 3-0 this series. I think that based on recent form, I think Peace almost peaked too early, so to speak. I think PGG have just looked on such an upwards trend that I think they look quite unstoppable, to be honest, and I don't think Peace really have the ability to match them.
Well, lucky you're a big brain here, Max, because they were actually all supposed to be Pentanet. So that is the reason why you're here on the desk as being an analyst. So
there we go.
Everybody was supposed to be for Pentanet. It is all one way or another. But Kitty, before we start getting ourselves into this game, you want to talk us through your prediction here with Pentanet over Peace?
So I actually chose Pentanet for tonight's Best of 5 series just because we did see Pentanet struggle in those earlier games in the season, but I believe that they're a scaling team. So they've actually picked up their form, and they've been performing so well in these past few games where I actually think they're going to 3-0 Peace.
3-0 Peace. I think this form must be, kind of skyrocketing. Stonks are going up here for Pentanet to get Kitty off the Peace bandwagon onto the Pentanet one. So I'm excited to see what they can do here in the Rift. But Skimmy, mate, Pentanet, do we feel like it's going to be a 3-0 here, or maybe there's a few games in for Peace?
I always get the most cop-out answer. I said it's going to be a 3-1 for PGG because, there's a part of me that just really hopes that a team can dig deep and find some wild draft that really upsets what could happen in a series. I feel like Peace have that def, especially in TN, to sort of show up. With, like a pocket, I don't know, whatever it could be, top lane to really showcase that, hey, I'm not afraid to take any trade. Perhaps production's all on the Peace bandwagon, hence they gave us that prediction. But look, yeah, I'm all about PGG tonight.
I think everybody at home is probably going to be on the PGG bandwagon. I think just recency bias goes to show that Pentanet are certainly in better form than what Peace are right now. So I'm excited to see what they can do here on the Rift. But Kitty, outside of the jungle, where do you feel like, a lot of these teams are going to be playing towards today?
Definitely either towards Winter or Cheon. I know that both Cheon and Prated like playing those hyper carry ADCs. So, Luke, what do you actually think?
I think it's actually going to be a 3-1 for Pentanet. So I'm going to cop out with Skimmy here,
Yes.
and we're actually going to get out of here as well because Champ Select is ready, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get into the playoffs.
Let's get into the playoffs and let's see really what a culmination of 9 weeks of hard work looks like, Max. It's what every player strives for. It's what you've been in positions like this before. And we're here once again.
Yeah, and I really love, you know, the opening draft of playoffs because it sort of sets the tone for what's to come, right? Playoffs has its own meta every year with teams, you know, adapting throughout, seeing what other teams have played, seeing what's worked, what hasn't worked. So I always love seeing what teams think is the best, and then you compare that to, you know, the grand final and see how much the meta's changed. So the Ahri first pick, something we have been seeing as a staple of the meta. Appy has looked individually really, really good on this pick. Definitely has the potential to pop off and take over team fights and games.
There's a lot of good mid lane options right now, but Ahri certainly seems to be the go-to for just that insane pick potential, and especially with the rework, a lot of mobility to fuel the idea of being very, very aggressive. One thing that was going to stand up to me were two key picks in particular, right? Will Ryze be allowed and will Diana? Well, every time Peace and Pentanet have gone up against each other, Diana's always been denied away from Balkan, but this time, he's actually got his hands on the Lee Sin without it being denied.
Yeah, and Peace have done a very good job of drafting a comp to really make Balkan have a hard time. I mean, you see the Ahri pick out, that's alright, but then you followed up with Nautilus and Volibear, and both these champions really excel at locking down a high mobility champion like the Lee Sin, you know, with stuff like the Dredge line, with the Nautilus ult as well, and then Volibear just slapping him with the stun. So I think that both comps have done a really good job of giving themselves really easy to execute and clear pathways to play this game.
Almost feels like we're playing opposites day, quite honestly, given that Lisa loves the Lee Sin, RP loves the LeBlanc, but Pentanet having to match and sort of respond in that same fashion. I think mid lane for me is going to be a very interesting talking point this entire series, right? Because we've seen both of these players opt for a lot of mobility in their champs, sometimes opting to say, we don't even care about solo kills, we just want to shove, roam, and assist elsewhere.
Yeah, and we're seeing a lot of volatility already in the draft, right? I mean, Ahri Volibear definitely has the potential, if a charm is landed, to just blow someone up. And same with Lee Sin LeBlanc. I mean, talk about storied 2v2s. Lee Sin LeBlanc is known all around the world for being this really obnoxious mid-jungle duo that can get up in your face, can roam to side lanes, and can dive. And we know that PGG, you know, if they do have the opportunity to press their advantage in either one of their solo lanes, they're not going to hesitate from taking that dive opportunity.
Sonny Arndt, and the Cannon's going to be denied away from Winter, one of the only players so far that has looked to lock that champion down. The response, though, from Pentanet, they have to pay respect to Tien, and that champion pool he possesses, the Poppy once again. Certainly being taken off the ball, but the biggest one for me, Max, has to be this Misfortune in a meta that is so dominated by AD carries, with a lot of those nerfs coming across. Misfortune's always been very strong.
Yeah, and what's so interesting, Skimmy, I mean, both teams have picked their first league champions, and an AD carry is not in either of them. Right, AD carries are being saved to the second phase, which is something we traditionally haven't been seeing. As the Xayah is going to be picked up, Xayah, you know, overseas has been playing that Eclipse build, that lethality, getting some really good damage off the Blade Caller, and is also really good into the dive presented by Peace. You know, stuff like the Nautilus, stuff like the Volibear, they really have a hard time playing to the Xayah because, you know, she can always use that ultimate, can dodge the damage, and then she just pulls those feathers back through you and just rips you to shreds.
Yeah, and both AD carries played this in their last game to close out the regular season. Now we're going to see another Lucian. It's only really been played by the Direwolves. The buff has enabled Lucian to be that much stronger if paired with the likes of a Nami. It seems to be the go-to. Brom is always there, but a Nautilus has already been locked in, so they're going to definitely change up their tune.
Yeah, there's no Enchanter with the Lucian, so I'm really excited to see how it actually turns out. You know, we haven't been seeing this much in almost any league around the world. It has been seen in the mid lane, but towards this bot lane, definitely an unknown quantity. And Jace, you know, a staple from Tien, and that is the quickest Malphite lock I think we've seen all split, Skimmy.
He's not messing around. He's basically guaranteed that this is the comp, this is what we're up against. That's a lot of attack damage, and a Malphite can certainly shrug off a whole bunch of this.
Yeah, and it's really good. I mean, Winterer has sort of been on this island playstyle, so to speak, for a lot of the split, and Malphite is one of the best champions to do that against the Jace. Doesn't really need too much gold. You know, at the end of the day, you are just going to run into a team fight. You are going to press that ult button onto the Lucian, onto the Jace, and hope that your team can follow up. So I really like the draft approach from PGG. But also on Peace, I mean, both teams have drafted themselves really stylistically comps that fit them.
Yeah.
You know, with the carry up in the top lane for TN, on the Jace, one of his most comfortable champions, and this is really great to see that they're going to Comfort for Game 1 of playoffs.
Absolutely, and I think it's really interesting now as to where Lisa decides to path towards, because we've seen definitely a big idea between going between bot and top to try and get those two online. Both champions would love a little bit early injection for that gold, for some experience and ability to pull ahead to really upset the balance of the game, because as you quite rightly say, Peace have so much pick potential. If Pensnet disrespect the lack of vision or go face checking, they're just gone.
Yeah, so what's the thing that I'm going to be keeping my eyes on this game is how the supports particularly play around this mid-jungle, right? We already mentioned that this mid-jungle pairings are both really explosive on either side, and you pair that with the likes of a Leona or a Nautilus, both champions that, really want to be making those aggressive plays, really want to be using those flashes early so they can get their Hex flash up and just engage. So I think, we've seen a lot from Beats, we've seen a lot from Rogue this season. How are they going to perform when the stakes are this high?
Certainly is a big question, because we need these supports to be active on the map. We know that both these mid laners will be keen to find picks. Both of arguably the best mid laners to find those picks at this stage of the meta. But also an idea that I'm looking at, right? We've seen this Malphite Jace matchup happen before. Yes, it was Tapoon. He got a solo kill on towards the Jace. I wonder, Max, if Winter will be looking at it and saying, I can do the same.
Yeah, I think Winter is definitely the type of player to look for those aggressive plays. It is playoffs, so who knows if he'll be exercising a bit more restraint. But typically, in OS, we have seen that if the Jace messes up, is definitely a potential to get solo killed. And you pair that with the likes of Balkan or Lee Sin, we know he's going to be aggressive. We know he's going to be looking for plays around the map. So I think it's a very scary world to live in if you have to blow flash at any stage as this Jace.
Certainly is. A lot of early game aggression, a lot of snowballing potential. Is there a comp in particular, though, Max, that you prefer?
Look, I'm going to say that I would prefer to be the side of PGG. I think whenever you have a Jace comp, it is a bit more execution heavy, and Lucian for me is just such an unknown quantity that I couldn't really give you an honest appraisal of how strong it looks in this game. I just know that, PGG do have this really CC heavy comp. They have the Xayah, who has that ability to negate a lot of the dive potential coming out from the side of Peace. And I think that whenever you have a Malphite, it's just such an easy go button in teamfights that even if they're a bit behind, in gold, as long as you can land that Malphite ulti, layer it with all your CC, you're going to be having a good go.
It certainly is, and it's always going to be the wombo combo dream that people love to look towards once level 6 is there, the coming together of team fights, the contesting of those Drakes, of those Heralds, of everything, every square inch of the map as a collective. And ultimately, as you've already said, right, this is game number 1. It's a chance to test the waters, to understand, were these the right drafts, were this, the right prep coming into a full-on series?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I like to call playoffs like a war of attrition, more so than, I'm going to beat you straight up in this game 1 and we've won the series, right? I think that whilst obviously you want every single win you can get in a playoff series, game 1 is a lot about testing the waters, right? Drawing your battle line, saying, hey, this is the stuff we want to pick. We know that this is what you want to pick. Can we adapt, improvise, and adjust throughout the series? Because, at the end of the day, both teams have opted for comfort here. That could change.
Yes, certainly could. And, I always find it interesting in that regard at the same point, right? Whereas what becomes really harder for you, right? In a game number 1 where you're looking to try and see, okay, let's try and set the pace, let's try and find momentum. You certainly see where teams get a big blowout performance. It's looking like a foregone conclusion, right? A Frio is on the menu. It's bound to happen. But a game that is so close, when teams perhaps walk away and nobody's really happy from it, it certainly muddies the waters, right? You're going into game 2 and saying, do we need to make these drastic changes, or do we just temper and sort of do the run back on the draft?
Yeah, so looking into game 1, I am actually really exciting to see, look, if the execution from Peace can outweigh the sort of wombo combo easiness from the side of PGG. So I think that if they can play up towards that top side, if they can make sure, Tien gets ahead, he doesn't have to blow his flash, he's able to get those plays, he's able to get that CS lead. He's shown that he can be a monster on this Jace, right? He's shown that he definitely can outrange, throw those shock blasts that do half your 80 carries health bar at a dragon fight, and then suddenly they can't enter the fight. So yeah, it's going to be really exciting to see who the burden of execution is going to be on for this game.
I think he's going to have a big task on his head, right, to try and pop off this game. We have seen Jaces fall behind, go 0-6 and still carry their weight, still do far more than 40, even 50% in some cases of their team's overall damage. And it could be a big defining factor, right? And when we talk about metrics, about understanding of what comps are built to do, both have fantastic poke, great siege, but ultimately, if you can hit those shock blasts before the Malphite can look to try and fight and engage, before the Lee Sin can get the angle with those turrets down to try and go for the insects, as you've already shown that you can do as well, Max, then hey, look, we've certainly got a game of 2 halves.
Yeah, and what I want to note about this game and why it's so exciting is that there's so many tools to punish a bad engage or a little mistake or mispositioning, right? Like, we see if the LeBlanc jumps in and she jumps into the side of a Nautilus, right? She's going to get one shot. And same for a lot of the champions on the side of Peace. So I think that there's, you know, is going to be really, really close team fights, and we're going to have to see these players essentially mechanics max on all of their champions to make sure they're staying alive, they're staying out of the way from, because there's a lot of CC on both sides of the rift.
There certainly is, and these would be the two teams that would look to try and do that one. And it feels interesting to me, right, when we sort of talk about the narrative as a whole for both these orgs. Last year would have said that Peace are the early game team, the team to win, stamp their authority, 15 minutes in, the game is done. Whereas Pentanet had always been that team to find a way to store things out, to find those 2 items completed, to try and hit that mid game, that Baron, that Elder flip, if you will. And I feel like we haven't really deviated too much away from that one, except that Pentanet has sort of, you know, closed up those early game weaknesses and are kind of winning in both directions now. Yeah, I mean, they've got a 90% chance statistically to take out that first turret, and that is crazy. I mean, I think if you're denying Jace, if you're able to get ahead with a Malphite into Jace in the early game, it speaks wonders to, you know, how you are as a team and how you're able to play. Because, look, I think I would give the advantage to Peace in this early game just a little bit. You know, Volibear, a very, very strong level 3, level 4 duelist. Same with the Ahri, as we are loading onto Summoner's Rift Skimmy for the first game of playoffs. Yes, we are. Apologies for the delay, but we are in and we are ready to rumble. The playoffs is back. Both of these teams, the LCO era really has belonged to them, as on 11 different meetings, Pentanet have won 7 of them. They are the team to look out for, and you would bet your bottom dollar that they could do it again. Let's load into this one, and as we do, get to check in with the coaching staff as I get the pleasure of speaking with Menulog.
Hi.
How are you, Menulog? You feeling good today?
Yeah, I'm very pleasure to be here too.
It's always good to have you on my screen and ready to talk to. Well, I have to ask, what's it been like preparing for another playoffs?
Actually, I didn't preparing for the next game. I just want to say I wish the next play were against the Chiefs. All right.
Oh, you've already got your sights set on the Chiefs. This one's going to be an easy 3-0 for the Peace.
Yeah.
Well, I love the confidence coming out of the draft lord. On a quick note, brand new patch for playoffs. Has the playoff patch changed much for you?
Actually, it's not that much. It's just nerf like some AD champion. It's okay for our team.
Oh, well, fantastic. Well, we can see the Lucians come out, so I'm excited to see how that one works. But Menulog, best of luck in this series, and hopefully you can get that grand final or that rematch up against Chiefs.
Thank you.
There we go.
I love the confidence. He doesn't even care about this series.
He does not beat around the bush, does he?
No, he's got his eyes set on the Chiefs. And Skimmy, we talked about explosivity around this mid lane. And level 1, we see Yuri having to blow flash because Beats just walks mid, throws that hook, and then LeBlanc has to get out of there.
It is just the beauty of a Nautilus, right? These champions so strong in the earlier portions to try and hard engage. In goes Rogue! Underneath the turret, though, he's going to cop one shot, but he's got the aftershock there, so the mitigation's going to pay off big time.
Yeah, a little bit of trading around the spot lane. We've obviously pegged Kratos and Rogue as one of the most aggressive duos in the game, and we can see straight away, as soon as that Zenith Blade's available, he is going in. It's nice to see Tien, you know, being able to get this push out in topside. You know, Balkan pathing down towards the bot lane, which is quite interesting. You know, not opting to make an impact towards his topside here. So both junglers mirroring their clears for the first round.
As it seems, where will that first gank come about? That is the big talking point, and will the supports be unlocked to assist and do the same? As Pentanet's bot lane going to go for a cheeky little invade here, try and get some tracking, some vision, some understanding as to where Lisa's pathing. Ward goes down, but the red buff's already taken.
Yeah, this is really good, Skimmy. I mean, it just gives them that extra little bit of confidence. Once you see those Krogs down, you can almost certainly assume that the Volibear is headed towards the top side. So now what this enables them to do is just play so much more aggressively with their trading. You know, Leona can be not afraid to go forwards to make those aggressive trades because they know that Volibear is going to be on the other side of the map.
And will the punishment of not having flash here on the LeBlanc hurt Yuri in the end? Will he have to play a lot more passively in this one and give up some free CS, some free advantages in those early 2v2s? You talked about how strong that LeBlanc and Lee Sin can be in tandem together. Lisa roaming top, Not on any vision at all. Winter has no idea. Starting to run low on that mana. A wave crashing, not the biggest one. Would love to try and trim this one before the gank comes across, because now 3 members are there. An instant flash away to TP, the charm, the damage from the hammer. To the skies they go, and first blood they find. A turret shot is enough, as Yuri answers back to make it a 1-for-1.
Yeah, but look at the commitment there from the side of Peace. I mean, every single person blowing flash. Yes, Winter does go down, but in the end, it is a trade kill. And you'd have to say you're not too upset with that one if you're other side of PGG, as more trading down towards his bot side.
Bates has gone for the engage. The cleanse has to come out instantly from Chaeyon. Out go the feathers. Can he get the recall? Is the angle good enough for him? No, just to the side. Now bot lane is bleeding.
Excuse me, we talked about action, and they are not failing to deliver. Both teams on both sides of the map are absolutely going ham in the early stages of this game. But yeah, like we talked about topside, I mean, Winterer does go down, but there is a trade kill for Yuri, and so he's going to be kind of happy having to blow flash level 1 that he manages to get the summoner spell advantage soon and picks up that trade kill.
The dream situation for a Malphite when he wants to try and just stay around, hit those breakpoints, get that, you know, the armor online as quickly as possible to weather the storm and be a juggernaut. How many times have we seen a Malphite get fed or just left to his lonesome and be an absolute monster, tanking up turrets, tanking up members, and just walking out?
Yeah, certainly. He's going to be the one standing in front of that Jace Shock Blast, making sure his AD carry and mid laner aren't taking too much damage. And yeah, whilst he does go down, Malphite doesn't really care too much about gold, so he's just going to walk into this mid wave, pick it up, and run back to top lane, not missing out on too much at all.
It's a great TP, ready from Yuri, right to back him up instantly. As soon as he saw the gank was on to get the trade, it's fantastic. The opportunity cost was high. Pensnet did answer back and keep this one close, says RP. He's once again teeing up the opportunity to try and make something happen, but wave is gone. Looking for a roam, looking to try and back up Lisa once again, who's not too far away from that ultimate, but he's got beats this time, and it's the run back towards top.
Yeah, they're heading back towards this top side. I wonder if Winterer is going to be able to get level 6 off this wave. We can't see his experience as they're going for it, Skimmy.
They're going to look to try and punish this one. This time he has no flash. Out goes the stun. The thunder comes down. The juggling of aggro. It's just too tanky. The shielding, the mitigation, and the walk-away kill.
And this is so good from the side of Peace. I mean, we talked about the Jace having to get an early game advantage because he will get outscaled by the Malphite. And Peace is just playing so well, you know, bringing beats up after Appy has come up, you know, killing Winterer there. He doesn't have access to the level 6, he doesn't have access to the flash, so there is no way he can get out once a volley bear's on top of him. And just a really, really nice early game from the side of Peace.
And it does feel like at this stage of the game, Max, only 6 minutes in, the strength is found on either end of the map. Yes, you're trying to get this Jace ahead as quickly as possible, but look at bot lane. I mean, Predator has achieved a huge CS advantage, up by 20, found 2 turret plates as well. You're starting to get a little bit concerned here.
Yeah, and look at that damage just with the serrated Dirk. I mean, this is why Xayah has been such an impressive pick, going that lethality, going that Eclipse build. But you're absolutely right, Skimmy. Trading on opposite sides of the map here. Tien getting ahead, now teleporting back to lane, as Yuri getting a bit of a trade into the mid lane. But those Merc Treads are going to make sure that, you know, even though he might be taking damage, I don't think Appy is ever going to go down.
It's always one of those joyous mid lane occasions, right, where you build the Merc Treads and go, well, I can't trade with you anymore. That's just counteracted me completely. As we'll get to see if they can try and find that moment to shine once again. Yes, Red Dirk certainly coming out on either end here, and could be the decisive damage spike that both are hoping to achieve. Praetor, very close to level 6, needs at least one more wave at least, so great timing to come here.
Yeah, this is really good, and Peace... Okay, so he's just going to come out here to shove the wave. This is really smart, just making sure his bot lane's able to get a good base off. You know, it did look pretty rough there. Chao not having access to any more sustain and is roughly half HP, so if PGG had to freeze the wave, he would have had to come eventually anyway, so just nice by Lisa. And now they're going to be able to sync up resets. What we're going to see here is Beats actually coming out on the map with Lisa, heading towards his Herald Skimmy, and this Herald, with such an early game comp from the side of Peace, it's going to be really important to secure and make sure they're snowballing that gold lead even further.
They have to find it, absolutely. They want to try and get some plates, even out the deficit they found in the spot lane, keep this Lucian relevant. You hate to see a Lucian fall behind early, unable to trade, and feel relegated to just hitting his ultimate button to act as a subsidiary to the Shock Blast. The fight goes out topside as we pan away, because there's a bit of a crime. It's a shutdown as Balkan answers back.
Yeah, Balkan read him so well. He knew Tien was going to melee Q in for that, and as soon as he does, the Unstoppable Force comes in from Winterer and just takes him down. So a really nice proactive play from Balkan there, as he's going to get maybe chased away by Lisa, but I mean, it is a 4v3 here, Skimmy, and Tien doesn't have TP to get back to this fight.
Respawn timers, though, are very quick at this early stage of the game, so he can just run back to this one, but I don't think it's going to be enough for them to try and contest this Herald. One pick was what they needed, and that's what they found. And it has opened up the invitation for them to claim the Drake and the Herald and keep their lead.
Yeah, and this is actually really huge. I mean, on surface level, it only looks like the one kill, but stifling them from being able to get that Herald, it means that Tien is not going to be able to get his head as he wants, right? We talked about the break point where Winterer can essentially just ignore Tien's damage and run at him with the ult and run him down, essentially. So being able to stop the side of Peace from getting that Herald from further taking top lane plates is going to be really beneficial for their game.
A great start. He's evened out his 1v1 up against this Jace very nicely. Was down a fair margin early into this one. And will certainly be sitting pretty now, especially given that he's got the Bramble Vest and the plated steel caps. Going to certainly immune a whole bunch of this damage. Question has become, though, where does this Herald go down as we return back to standard lane deployments at the 10-minute mark? Does he just look to go down bot side and break open that turret that is already so low?
Yeah, well, I mean, it certainly could be. It's only on 3 plates, and I think that if you do manage to be able to bring down Yuri to one of these players with the LeBlanc, pressuring them off their turret, you certainly could look for it. His Beats is on a base now. If Balkan heads down towards the bot lane, he should be able to drop it without too much worry.
Teeing up this one as Rogue goes out to try and secure vision in the river. They own the bottom half of that, but the entrance into it and the Pixel Bush especially is all caught out here by Peace. The Herald goes down, the plates are found, and the 2-plate execute is going to guarantee that once again, Pensnet find the first turret.
And this is such a feels bad game for Cheon, right? I mean, debuting this new Lucian pick in the LCO, it hasn't been able to find the success that it wanted. I mean, down 30 CS, Skimmy, and you can only imagine a whole heap of gold from that turret going down as well. So you just have to pray that Tien is able to make use of his advantage up in this top side, because it's looking pretty rough for the bot half of the map.
It is. And I feel like, you know, when we statistically look at these 2 AD carries, Predef does excel in a lot of these major categories, right? Damage per minute, gold per minute. What does the stats look like by the 15-minute mark? I'm almost going to go for the hot take and say that I reckon if Raze wasn't in the region, Predef would be the outright best AD carry in OS right now.
Yeah, no, certainly. I mean, he had that one game where he hit almost 14 CS per minute. Just absolutely unheard of numbers. So I think that he definitely has shown that he has the potential to carry games. As we see a little bit of vision control around this mid lane, Dragon is spawning in 10 seconds, so I'm interested to see whether Winterer will sacrifice his lane to run down his friend as Tien.
Yes, looking for that fight. As you say, the Dragon is there, and the team need to fight now, need to find those resets. The charm does not connect with the Spirit Rush. Had to be committed there by RP. It was hunting for that kill. They could not find it. Balkan entertains the idea of going back in once again. As Lisa's being left to his lonesome, gets caught by the Zenithblade. The Soliflare goes on down. Lisa's in trouble, forced to flash away to lose vision for a second. The Drake is going to get reset. In goes Winterer with the unstoppable force and absolutely rips apart the jungler off the side of Peace. Rogue flashing forward, bringing back the feathers as Pentanet explode into life. Yes, Tien gets one. He's taken down a Leona. And Yuri, can he find a way to dart around with this one? Not before Cheon flashes across and commits to crime of me, dying for his sins. But a great charm and an even better disengage.
Skimmy, where do we even begin with that team fight? It was a fight on multiple fronts there. We saw on the top side, Tien running into Yuri and Balkan having to use the kick defensively. But on the bot side, Lisa gets caught out by Predator and Rogue, and once the Volley Bear has to burn the ultimate, has to burn the flash, it was just easy for Winterer to get in there, use the ultimate, and ultimately PGG are going to end up with a 2-0 Dragon lead.
A huge lead already so early on into this game, with a gold lead, with an item advantage, with a structural advantage, and a chance, no doubt, now to work towards a very early soul point if this game does allow it. And I mean, honestly, you're looking at that fight, and on reflection, it felt like Peace were always trading back reactively.
Yeah, it felt like the engage wasn't as clean as they would have liked. You know, as we saw, Lisa having to use the ultimate defensively and then having to flash away really hurts it. I mean, how many engage tools do you have once the jungler is chunked and your Nautilus is essentially removed from the fight? So we see PGG are switching their bot lane up towards topside as Beats is going for a hook.
Oh no, Predator's in a world of trouble right now. Out goes the Perfect Storm, the flash away, the rip back, the damage, the protection, and the reinforcement. As Balkan is unable to land the Q this time, but that was the first player that Peace have found. And they've burnt a lot from the Xayah.
And I think from the side of Peace, they probably weren't expecting the Zai ultimate to be available, but you know, there's so much CDR coming from those Lucidity boots, coming from that Eclipse, that it is just going to be up again, and Praedyth manages to narrowly escape. I mean, potentially if he goes down there, that's a break onto the top lane turret, and Peace can regain some of this gold, but a really nice response from the side of PGG to make sure their AD carry remains deathless.
Certainly is the joy of this new item variation, right? The same could be said for Xayah and Kaiser. Once upon a time, close proximity, in your face, certainly looking to try and, you know, test their mental, but nowadays it's all about maximum range, farming from afar, being very annoying, especially once the Sorota's Grudge is there. You're checking out Feathers, you've got all the cooldown reduction in the world, and very hard to take down.
Yeah, so I'm looking at this game now, and despite only being a 2,000 gold lead, it does look quite rough for the side of Peace to actually team fight. I mean, who is the Nautilus actually going to be able to hook and have it make a real big difference, right? You have this Lee Sin who's going to be working towards the Death Stance or Black Cleaver, you would have to think, and then everyone else is really tanky. So I think unless Beats can land a Miracle Hook onto Praedyth without having his ultimate up, it's going to be extremely hard for them to actually pick someone off before the fight starts.
Need to find some way to get Chad into this one because he is sorely lagging behind. He needs a miracle at this stage of the game, but they can't find it because Appy's being caught in a side lane. He hits the charm, but it gets kicked and buffered to make sure that he cannot run away. And we've had a flashing with, what, 10 seconds before he could Spirit Rush away. It's a great pick in a side lane.
Yeah, really nice cooldown calculation there from the side of PGG as Lisa's going for it.
Oh, it's hunting season for these mid laners, really, isn't it? Yuri very low, both in health and mana. A TP's enough to deter them. A Solar Flare onto 2, as the Gale Force might have been enough to try and get Chan out of harm's way. Balcon's looking to just solo kill him, as now they run down the stragglers from the side of Peace. Tien has no mana, he's got a Blast Cone, but he's got a Malphite right on his head, chucking pebbles and throwing stones. Sticks and stones certainly will break his bones.
Oh, just filthy team fighting there from PGG, especially from Balkan. I mean, essentially 1v1 solo kill Cheon in that team fight, then going over to kill Tien on this Jace. So we talked about Balkan, we talked about him being one of the standout junglers in the LCO, and he is proving today that he is not to be slept on.
Certainly is not. He has been the jungler to keep your eye on, the one that's received all the praise from his peers, and to come into a best of 5 in a playoffs and to basically say, I've returned, I'm back, this is what I do, and this is what we as a team are going to achieve.
Yeah, and Skimmy, one other thing I want to note about that play was PGG made that play bot side, but then Winter was able to TP up to the top side. So they just have a very good understanding of where they need to attack and where they need to defend on the map, and they're not really allowing Peace any opportunities to make proactive plays.
Another minute, and then next Dragon, the third one of this game, is up and available. Question does become, though, does Peace look to try and contest that one? Because if you look at Tien, not too far away from completing that mirror mana. Winter is an absolute mammoth at this stage of the game, just having completed the Frozen Heart, the uptime on the ultimate, just the debuff component really more so than anything is going to be so frustrating to try and contend with, and I feel like you're all in on that fourth for the Soul Point.
Yeah, I would be very surprised if Peace 2 manages to win this fight. I think just looking at the AD carries, right, Cheon is so far behind. He will have his flash up, and so will a lot of the Peace members, which gives them that little bit extra survivability versus the Leona and versus the Malphite. But we can already see here, in terms of vision, PGG do have the inside track. So Beats are just going to have to Chad walk in here, essentially, if they do want to contest Skimmy.
Looking for it. Appy playing a game of chicken. Will you go in on this trade as he tries to clear out Vision? Control wall protected. It's going to start regenning. Vision does belong to them. Charm goes out. Does not land. Mid lane control becoming absolutely paramount. But look at Yuri finding an angle across that Raptors.
Just throwing out a little poke as the Appy's going in. Lands the charm.
Yeah, Severcool has to come out quite early into this one. Beats in a lot of trouble. Forced to flash away. Yuri! Oh, so close to the dredge line. As a bit of a blunder on either end of the stick comes across. The Dragon now has spawned. Another charm goes across. Yuri still teasing at the idea of committing, but you can feel the tension here.
It's absolutely palpable, Skimmy, as Lisa is probably going to try to go for a steal here. Winterer is in this bush with the control ward and the ultimate. Dragon's getting low.
Ultimate's flying. No ultimate's landing. Pentanat secured the third Dragon of this game, just disengaged. It's been a huge blunder. The Herald's going to come across because Valkan wants the ward hop. The Stormbringer across the wall as they engage onto Rogue. That's not the target you want. A shock blast, you can see what it's doing, but they need more! Look at Winterer! He is the difference maker, and he's stamped himself into this game as you will not take me down.
And Skimmy, the only saving grace here for the side of Peace is that Baron isn't up, otherwise you'd almost certainly have to imagine that PGG would go and take that objective. But again, team fighting just looks so much cleaner from the side of PGG. I mean, disengaging when they have to and finding those windows. Winterer with a massive unstoppable force connecting onto 3 members of Peace to make sure that they win the team fight.
You feel hard-pressed really at this early stage of the game to try and figure out who would be the MVP of this game, right? Is it Balkan or is it Winter? Because between the two of them, they have been putting in a whole load of work there to guarantee 3 Drakes into a successful team fight and a Herald that takes down 2 turrets. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, look at Winter. He's such a chat. He has 100 CS. You know, doesn't care about getting gold himself. He's just going to say, I'm going to rock up the team fights. I'm going to get everyone else on my team gold. And we're going to win team fights like that. But now, Skimmy, speaking of the gold, it's almost a 5,500 lead for the side of PGG. And with the next Dragon spawning in just under 4 minutes, you'd have to imagine Peace are feeling a bit under pressure as to how to respond.
It's put a timer on this game really for me, Max, because this game, as you said, they could have certainly gone for Baron, but it's that far ahead this early on. It hasn't even spawned. It's criminal. It really is.
Yeah.
An Infernal Soul on all things considered, and certainly you're saying, well, we're struggling to find the damage as it is. In a comp that wants those picks, we can't afford to give that one away.
Yeah, so it just really has to be a matter now for the side of Peace of just absolute commitment to killing one person. That's important as Appy's getting caught out here.
Yep. Forced to burn his ultimate once again, finding it very rough in this side lane to try and do much. As Winterer walks up to lane and just claps his hands.
I mean, we talked about it, Skimmy. There will come a point in the game where Malphite can just do this to you. TN even using the flash and still going down. Now, PGG are going to start this Baron up. Appy is towards the bot side without Spirit Rush. So it's going to be a very hard one to contest if you're Peace.
That's not looking possible. The tools surely just aren't there. They have to farm, they have to find those second items. They are sorely lagging behind. It's really only TN at this stage, but he's finding it very rough to try and contend with this Malphite. They're going to poke their head into this one. The Baron is being held, but there was no real threat of a steal. Balkan secures it with the smite. The fight is going to break out as the depth charge goes across and knocks up 2. But it's beats against the world as the rest of his team has said, we aren't backing you up. That's not the player we're after. And Nado might just run away with it.
Yeah, I mean, Skimmy, Peace are on the wrong side of the map here. They are going to run towards this bot lane, but PGG don't look like they want to give up the chase whatsoever. Malphite is walking around behind them. He's going to have the ultimate up very, very soon, so I think this is very scary for Peace.
It certainly is, and Pentanet are toying with them at this stage. They're going to go in. In goes Yuri looking for it. Going to get stunned. Stormbring on his head to stall in and back and all over the shows. He does eventually fall on down. To the skies goes Tien. And to the ground does he fall as Rogue goes invulnerable. Comes out, smacks you with the cooldowns. But Appy, he's a bit of a vampire. He is life leeching and finding a double kill here. If he can get a triple, this would be huge.
Yeah, I mean, look at Appy. He doesn't have the final charge of the Spirit Rush, but he is going to take down Winterer. And that is honestly just exceptional team fighting. From the side of Peace, I thought for sure that they were going to get routed and just killed there, but very nice decision making to hide in that bush and then to just blow everything to kill one person. So whilst they are still very far behind, a brief moment of respite will be bought for them off the back of that play.
What a team fight. What a moment for them to try and claw themselves back into this game. The 3v4 really paying out this time for the side of Peace. They sieged mid lane for a bounty on that first turret. They pushed and found more shutdowns to try and close this gold lead, which was, well, certainly trying to get away and into the 10k region.
Yeah, so the next Dragon, which will be sold for PGG, if they do manage to pick it up, is spawning in 40 seconds. One thing to note is the summoners on the side of Peace. Neither Cheon, Appy, nor Tien having access to that flash is going to make it really, really hard to play against the likes of Winterer with his Malphite ultimate. So there's going to have to be some really nice positioning or else it's looking very rough.
Certainly is. Balkan with flash, Predator with flash. They've got the tools, they've got the damage, they've got the confidence to certainly go for this one. Back to mid lane we go again as we wrangle control of that lane, of that tempo, of that vision. As the hook goes out once again, beats a one-man knock-up on towards the Lee Sin. He goes golden. Predator is so low! Forced to flash away. He's out of the fight. He can't do much about this one, Max. He has to go back to base.
Brilliant work by Appy there, finding the angle onto Pradith. I mean, he almost went down there. Oh, Tien almost getting caught on the side, but Pradith is out of this fight, Skimmy. I mean, he's too low to be able to contest, so it's a 4v5 in the favor of Peace.
Double summoners and the ultimate committed. He's still got the stopwatch. Is this the invitation Peace need at the 23-minute mark to stamp themselves back into this game? to deny the soul point.
They've got to go now, Skimmy. I mean, Pred's going to get back.
It's going to get stolen! And they bought themselves crucial time, precious seconds in this one. Beats trying to take out Winter. It's just too tanky. Look at him shrug off all that pain and punishment. The charm goes across. But ultimately, Peace are falling down. They invested so much just to steal the Drake that they may just get aced.
And Peace get the Dragon, Skimmy, but at what cost? I mean, there are 25-second death timers on Cheon and Lisa and 30 for Tian. I think this is going to be an inhib at least for PGG. With Winter and Yuri working down towards this bot turret, I mean, yes, they denied the soul, but I mean, the sheer amount of gold that's going to go over to the side of PGG is huge.
It really is. What is now an 8k lead? Forget about the Dragon. Quite honestly, are they too confused about really what that all meant? Not at all. They aren't deterred. They're very happy at the reward really being that the mid lane inhib is gone, and back to base they go as they can prep themselves for the next Baron.
Yeah, I mean, there were some pings coming out from the side of Peace. It looks like they might want to go for a TP flank, but, you know, opting not to. Look at Praedith here. I mean, he has 700 gold bounty, has the ultimate, and has the stopwatch, which he didn't even use last fight, despite being, you know, one auto attack away from death. So, coming into this next fight, almost 9,000 gold ahead, you'd say that PGG feel pretty good about their odds in this game.
They certainly would, but there might be that small concern in the back of their head about what this Appy Ari can do, as Tien is now fighting himself dead for the 9th time this game. It really hasn't been his to start off in this series.
Yeah, look, I know a special something about Jay's performances and a lot of deaths in playoffs. I think it is one of those champions that if you get behind on, or if the enemy top laner is able to get an advantage, and it's really, really hard to play out. And I think Winter is doing a really great job alongside Belkan, you know, exploiting that fact, right? Yes, he has less than 5 CS per minute, but it doesn't matter. This guy can just run him down whenever he wants in the side lane. So a really nice job from the top laner of PGG with that insta-lock Malphite in draft.
I mean, Winter really is the Giga Chad, right? He locks it in instantly. He says, I'm going to fall behind in CS just so the rest of my team can flourish. I get gold from kills, and kills he has found. He's got the most on his team tied there with Balkan. It's crazy.
When do you see an 8-kill Malphite? I mean, like, what even is that? This guy has 18 out of 21 KP. That's just got to be a ridiculous percentage. And yeah, a very, very strong statement performance from him.
It just goes back to my point, 10 minutes prior, right? Who is the MVP of this game for game one between those two? Up in the top half of the map, they've put on a very solid performance. And as we mentioned before, right, taking down the mid inhib, they're buying their time, biding their moments, fighting the side lane pressure, trying to extort out any cooldowns they can, because Baron's up in 10.
Yeah, it certainly is, and it's so hard to walk in here if you are Peace. I mean, there are so many tools to engage on you if you misstep, so I wonder if they're even going to contest it all, or if they're going to say, you know, we're just going to clear these waves out, we're going to try to set up our vision, and we're going to try to fight you once we've got it. But they are indexing up towards this top side. I think they're going to flip it, Skimmy.
It looks like it. The Scuttle Crab has just expired. The vision goes down from the Balloon Shrinker, but that's instantly cleared off. Appy has the Unleashed Teleport, but he's not showing any signs of wanting to walk up for the rest of this one, as his team is locked and held in suspension in the mid lane, doing whatever they can to try and claw some scraps.
I mean, this is the slowest Baron ever. It's the Malphite and Lee Sin hitting it, while the Xayah and LeBlanc are off doing zoning damage, as Beats is already on about 40% HP. If you're Peace, you have to go in now. This Baron's just going to get burnt down otherwise.
Do or die for them. The Baron is secured. It's too little, too late. Peace was certainly held at bay. Tien, the solid flare, the instant unstoppable falls, but this time it's duped. And there's the shutdown that Chen is so desperately needed just so he can play the game. The hook goes out, but it does not connect, but they find Rogue anyway. They found 2, and they've only lost 1. How many more can they find in this upset, in this story, in this first game of the series? The Shock Blast! Oh, so close. So close to taking down a very fragile Xayah. But now Tien is up against it all. Appy trying to cycle through the cooldowns as Balkan jumps in. He's got the GA, they've got the moves, and they've got the ace.
Oh, that fight was absolutely on a knife's edge, Skimmy. You know, despite the 10,000 gold lead, Peace had some great moments in there. You know, Tien managing to use the flash, escaping the unstoppable force, and it looked good there for a second. But Praedith remaining alive on the back end, and Belkan, he's not even in his Guardian Angel. This guy is an absolute monster this game. And Skimmy, I think PGG are going to take game 1.
It's looking to be that way. The respawns, the TPs, the vision, and the minions. They're on towards the Nexus to stamp this one down. Game 1 belongs to Pentanet. Peace will do whatever they can, but for them, a game that did not go their way, and their sights set on game number 2.
Fantastic execution, fantastic team fighting from the boys in PGG. I mean, we talked about how both these teams were picking for their styles, they were picking for comfort, and it just looked like PGG's came out on top this game with a great performance on the Malphite from Winter and Skimmy. I have no idea who you would give this MVP to because they just played so well across the board.
They certainly did, and that's a great way to introduce yourself back into the playoffs. We are the team to watch out for. Pentanet were the team that Split 1 belonged to, quite honestly. There was nobody that could really touch them, and yes, whilst the players may change, it seems like the org is all still the same. And Luke and Kitty, I mean, what do you think about a game like that? Because it certainly showcased that the playoffs are back, and it's as good as ever.
I mean, when we come into these full best of fives and these guys start to perform the way that they did in the regular season and now coming into it with a whole lot of comfort to say here, I think it just goes to show that these guys are here to party. The fact that Winter is nice and rock solid up in that top lane, be able to make it a top gap, and then even the fact that we highlighted Balkan here, Kitty, he comes into a game number 1, he gets his Lee Sin once again, and goes to show, I don't think you can give this man Lee Sin anymore.
I don't know why teams keep giving Balkan Lee Sin. He's been cracked on in every single game so far, but I've been kind of confused by Peace's draft. We actually see them locking in the Lucian after the Nautilus has been picked in the first round of draft. And what I'm confused about is because Lee's actually played towards Tien for the majority of this game, where Lucian was kind of left on an island. And Lucian into PGG's draft is just not good in general because you can't really E in due to the Malphite and Xayah feathers. And I just think Peace didn't have a clear direction of what their game plan was, especially in the first team fight around Dragon. We saw them being really split and they just kind of were all over the place, and that just snowballed into a very fat loss.
All right, well, follow up to that then, Kitty, is do you feel like that because this is a best of 5, this is game 1, a little bit of limit testing coming in from Peace to trying out a few new things with the new patch?
I definitely think it's comfort, perhaps, going into the first game for this best of 5 series. Hopefully we do see some change-ups in the draft because this definitely didn't work out for the first game. And we see PGG having a really solid draft. Winter, although being dove 2 times in the early game, he still managed to bring it back. He knew what his role was for these team fights, and he was just able to provide so many knockouts and engages for PGG where they had a clear direction of what the fights should be played out like.
Well, I mean, when you snap pick a champion like Malphite, you want to hope that the pilot to that champion is going to be confident. I think Winter did show up today here, and Max. I mean, looking at this first game between PGG and Chiefs, it seems like Pentanet are coming into this with all the confidence in the world.
Look at that Malphite damage. He almost out-damaged his 80 carry on Malphite, and he absolutely gapped his mid laner in damage. So yeah, I don't think you could have much more of a statement game if you tried, and I think that PGG looked all smiles in their camera. They looked, I mean, even in their player interviews, they said that they were expecting a clean 3-0, and I think that's what we're starting to see here.
Yeah, it certainly does feel like these guys are going to come in with confidence. But I guess moving in towards game number 2 then, Skimmy, does this where it really starts to get into the minds of the Peace Boys where they're like, oh, this game wasn't all too close for the majority of it. Now going into game number 2, do they have to change a whole lot up to try and pull this series back?
I think we've sort of seen the Lucian experiment not work too well. I mean, you're drafting a champion, right, to try and bully lane. You're falling behind early. It's pretty much doomed by that point, right? I think the big question for me, right, like we saw in LCK and LPL, is can these bot laners actually play the likes of Ziggs or other AP champions? Because that's certainly a good talking point for looking to try and stall out things and be a huge carry to unlock, AD options elsewhere.
Yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting tale for us to tell for the rest of this best of 5. Before we go to a break and go into game number 2, we've got another from the fans submission, so let's bring this one up and let's have a chat about it as well here. The fact that we've got Kitty on the desk, we can get her ideas about this as well. So from Mr. MJ himself, starting out with Fudge in the top lane, Babip in the jungle, Tally in the mid, losses the ADC, and Isles. So Kitty, how do you feel about this one?
There is one common factor for all these players. They've all played in NA, although Tally and Babip has come back to OCE, but Fudge, probably the best top laner that we've exported out to the other regions, and Lost is actually the first ADC, well maybe, is he the first ADC to be exported to NA? If I'm not wrong. And Isles, being the young talent he is, he went from playing OCS to OPL, winning OPL, and just being exported to NA quite quickly as well.
I mean, it seems like a lot of these names are really starting to pop up once again for these from the fans, OS teams. And I'm excited to see what everybody else at home has left going here. But ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to go to a break here. We've got another game to get into. Pentanet and Peace going head-to-head once again here on Summoner's Rift. So after this short break, make sure you guys join us for more LCO action.
Gale Force might have been enough to try and get Chen out of harm's way. Balkan's looking to just solo kill him. As now they run down the stragglers from the side of the piece. Tien has no mana, he's got a blast cone, but he's got a mouth fight right on his head, chucking pebbles and throwing stones. Sticks and stones certainly will break his bones.
Oh, just filthy team fighting there from PGG, especially from Balkan. I mean, essentially...
Hey, look, Menulog.
Look, I'm doing all right in predictions. Thanks to you guys in Twitch chat. We've been getting some dubs. We've been getting some dubs together, you and me. Haha, we'll make it to the top one day, sons and daughters and gyms. You know, PGG, Skimmy, why?
What was that? Honestly, these accents have been broken more and more by the second.
Just trying to save Kitty.
Yeah, fair enough. You're a fantastic host and a friend, aren't you?
See, ladies and gentlemen, that's why Mac isn't here. He hyper-aged after making that old man voice, and now, unfortunately, he's still stuck in the retirement home, and we weren't able to bust him out for the playoffs. So maybe we might be able to get him a little bit later on. So who knows? Geriatric Mac might make his appearance here on the LCO. But game number one is done, ladies and gentlemen, of the playoffs, and PGG came in with a bit of a stamped Skimmy. The fact that they came into this red hot with a whole lot of comfort goes to show that I think moving for the rest of this series, we're going to have to look at Peace to see what they can improve.
Yeah, I think they had a clear direction, right? Looking to try and limit what Balkan could do in that game. But again, the least, and they forgot that he's just a little bit too cracked on far too many champions. And once you got the ball rolling, you know, momentum can be a bit of a given at times. It was very hard to slow it down.
Yeah, it is very hard, and obviously, Max, you've been in scenarios like this, you know, in full best of fives. How do you try and get the boys corralled back together and try and get them into game number 2, you know, heads held high?
Yeah, look, I think it's a matter of saying, look, we picked the Lucian, we picked the Jace, put it down to a draft difference, honestly. I think that they didn't really have a clear direction as to where they wanted to play to, because neither a Jace nor Lucian looks very good from behind in that game state. So I think, you know, just disregard it. It's a new game. Essentially treat it as a best of 3 from now on, and just keep your heads up.
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously going in a champ select for game number 2 here, Kitty, I'm really looking towards these teams to try and take away the Lee Sin. And obviously now we're changing it up a little bit, so who knows, we might be seeing Peace on the red side for this game, and they might be able to, you know, try and weasel their way into a Lee Sin pick of their own, right?
We do see Lisa having those epic performances on that Lee Sin from previous games before. The one I remember is the one that where he clutch saved Api on the Gragas mid lane, and I had an interview with, I believe it was Lisa, and he was like, we just picked Gragas for the sake of Gragas. So hopefully we do see Lisa being opened, but no, not Lisa. Lee Sin being open to Peace and Palkan playing something else like the Jarvan from before.
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously from what we've seen from Palkan throughout the entirety of the split, and ladies and gentlemen, Peace have picked blue side once again here, so they've decided to go for the blue side this time around here. And, you know, obviously it might be one of those sides, Max, where they're really feeling a little bit more comfortable in this best of 5 on the blue side.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, look, just to say that they lost on blue side before doesn't mean they're going to do it again. I think, you know, obviously priority picks shift throughout the series, and like Kitty talked about, I mean, if Lee Sin is this really, you know, we can't let Balkan have it or else we're going to lose, and Lisa has shown that he is good on the pick as well, that could be something they're potentially looking to deny away on that first pick.
Now, we'll see once we get in towards the champion slip. Before we get into that, it is time for you guys at home to utilize your prediction points to try and get yourselves to see if you can pick the correct winner for game number 1. You guys are correct in game number 1. See if you guys can do it here for game number 2. Their fan vote is up and ready for you guys to throw those channel points on the line to see who you think is going to come out on top. I think, you know, Twitch chat have been pretty good through the entirety of the split. They've brought Mac back from the giant hole that he dug himself into, and now he's looking somewhat respectable, right, Skimmy? I think at this point, he's still not even, but he's close to even.
We're going to be careful, though, Luke, because otherwise we're going to give too much of an ego to Twitch chat. All those Twitch chat analysts out there saying, look, I know everything. My 2 followers believe me with those likes. Yeah, well done, Twitch. You've done a solid this time.
Stepped up a little bit, obviously, because those guys, you know, they started pretty low and now they've raised the bar ever so slightly. But ladies and gentlemen, you guys at home can try and get those analyst points in the chat because Champion Select is ready. So let's jump into game number 2.
Yes, let's jump into game 2 and see what happens this time around, Mac. As really keen to see what happens in terms of priority. I feel like mid lane was going to be the go-to. I feel like Ari is just a little bit too good to pass up, especially if the Rise is going to continue to be banned away.
It's a salty run back, Skimmy. Both teams just locking the exact same picks that they did, at least for the first round. But here we see the first adaptation coming out, opting for that Xayah. I think this is really smart into the side of PGG who want to play this dive comp. And I mean, we saw that once Peace got to that AD carry pick on 4, the champion pool just pinched a little too much. So I think picking up the Xayah here is a very smart adaptation in draft.
I think it is. And as you already mentioned before, right, these were the 2 champions that were picked in their last few games. You can see Menulog there in the background, coaching through all the boys in their gaming house. Shout out to him, getting his hands on Xayah once again. But the Lee Sin denied for a second time into the hands of Balkan. But Lisa certainly loves himself a bit of Zen as the second most played.
Yeah, he does. And Skimmy, what's really interesting to me is the misfortune. I think this is the first time we might be seeing it in the LCO, certainly in playoffs, but yeah, it's just a very new pick in general, and it pairs obviously well with the Leona, you know, with that huge amount of CC just to keep them locked down while you're casting that bullet time. It certainly has a good laning phase too. You know, with that ricochet from her Q can certainly do a good amount of poke, so I'm really excited to see how Praedyth and Rogue are going to be able to pilot this really explosive, damage-heavy bot lane 2v2.
And I feel like the misfortune, essentially copy-pasting the kind of style or the gameplay of Xayah, right? Same kind of randomization with the annoying Eclipse into the Surreal's Grudge. Yeah. Only big difference is, right, you're trading one ultimate that is to try and survive into just even more damage.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even both ults having a similar shape, right? But I think that, yeah, Misfortune's job obviously is to land that huge ultimate in the middle of a team fight. I think it is going to be a bit hard though, Skimmy, you know, versus an Ahri who has that Spirit Rush, able to ultimate out of the fight, and Xin Zhao obviously can just put up his ultimate and say, no, I don't really care about being in your ult at all. So already we're seeing a fair bit of draft improvisation coming out from the teams. I think Vex is a really good answer into the Ahri and also adds a little bit more dive onto the side of PGG.
Yeah, I feel like stylistically, LeBlanc and the Vex are going to function much the same, right? But the Vex can certainly offer a little bit more in those close quarter combats with those huge fears, as you will, even with the resets on top of all things considered. Set is going to come out. Now, this opens up an interesting discussion, right? Is it going to be played by TN topside, or is there ever a world where we have that back in support?
And they're going to be really annoying, and I think go for the double flex here. I mean, Set, obviously a really good answer into the Leona support. Whenever the Leona tries to engage, you can just end up throwing her back into her own team, and then bam, you've got your own engage tool. And yes, they've picked the Gragas. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we don't know who's going to be in support. I would put my bet that it is going to be Set in that support role and Gragas towards the top lane. I think that's what we've seen be the more traditional, I guess, array of picks, but certainly could go either way, Skimmy.
Certainly could go either way. And look at that. Winter being given all the tools and resources to always get counterpick. I don't know if this is like disrespectful, but it's almost like saying, hey, Tiana, I'm going to show you how to play Jace.
Yeah, but it's Jace into either Set or Gragas, Skimmy, and both of these matchups are really good for Jace because he doesn't really feel too much pressure that he's going to get killed versus either of them, really. Xin Zhao obviously can make stuff happen in the early game, can force Jace to blow flash, but for the most part, Jace versus Gragas, normally just Jace is farming up, he's getting his TR, he's stacking his items, maybe getting some plates as well, and he's really, really comfortable coming into the mid game in this matchup.
Certainly will be, and certainly be another test for them to have that a bit of engage, bit of sort of poke from afar, right? Because I'm primarily looking between the Jace as well as that Misfortune to try and run the numbers in these early portions of this match once again. They've certainly got the skirmishing potential, which allowed them to really run the map right? They got the Herald, they got the Drake, they got the kills, they got the turrets, and it just kind of snowballed out of control a little bit too hard. But I feel like Peace have a little bit of an easier time this time around, right? Trying to find those hard engages.
Yeah, certainly, and I think they've given themselves a bit of an easier way to play. You know, we talked about how having Jace and Lucian on your team really makes it hard for your jungler because you're not really sure who to path to. I mean, when you have the Gragas, though, it's pretty easy to just say, all right, TN, your job is to survive this game. I'm going to be trying to impact my mid and bot side of the map, and then you can carry in team fights.
We certainly saw what Epi could do when given a bit of time to try and play off, right? The weakness for us, I think, is they very much struggling in those side lanes to try and keep those under control. When you're getting pinched from every angle, the game does feel very losable. But ultimately, this time around, a lot more of a stronger skirmishing style and a chance to try and pick off the members of Pentanet if they are going to keep entertaining the ideas of these 50-50 moments. Here we go, loading into Game 2 to kickstart what is this year's playoffs. Pentanet currently leading the series in this best of 5, 1-0. Speaking of Pentanet, we do have once again their coaching staff on standby. I get a pleasure of talking with Chippies this time.
What's up, G?
How are we? Well, welcome back to OS once again. I suppose back to OS, back to playoffs. How's it feel to be here?
Feels bloody good, man. These past weeks of scrims have been probably the most productive in a while. So, as you can see, the draft are gapping right now. The boys are playing good, so I'm feeling good for this run.
Yeah, I certainly loved your tweet before, talking about, this is the last pick they see with the Malphite before they get knocked out of playoffs. So certainly, I can see the confidence is there. But from your own standpoint, what was the message that you shared to the team coming into tonight?
I'll just say everyone on our team's a lot more confident and more alpha on the Rift, and the guys reversing, they're playing a bit pussy, So I'd say just play with confidence, boys. Sort them out. Just do what we've been doing in scrims, and it'll work.
You're just laying out the facts, just straight pure truth. And maybe, as I know you're a bit of a gym connoisseur yourself, mate, maybe it's a bit of a gym diff.
That's for sure. Seen Balkan there?
Absolutely.
It's a big man.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. Teaming up perfectly. Well, fantastic. Best of luck here, Chippies, and we're going to crack on with Game 2.
Thanks, mate. See ya.
We're already seeing action, Skimmy. Both coaches' interviews, we've seen Summoner be traded at level 1. That time it's Beats flashing forwards, getting the aggressive trade onto Praetor. And as Set is always a champion who wants to be trading flashes early because he will have that Hex Flash advantage. As Peace, it's a different story in the bot lane here. They're the ones who are going to get level 2 first in this lane.
Certainly are. And that could certainly give Cheon the invitation back into this series to pop off with a far stronger performance in the laning phase, which he sorely lacked last time around. And the interaction I vaguely caught during that conversation with Chippies was, as you mentioned, the way that Set and Leona can interact.
Yeah, there's a bit of creative pathing here from Balkan. I mean, he's into the Gromp, but everyone on Peace knows he's here. He has walked over that ward, and Tan's going to come down, be a bit of a nuisance. Lisa's here, and he does have Smite Skimmy. I think we could see... Okay. As soon as I say that, he decides against it. He hops out. He's going to be safe, but a nice response from Peace to make sure they're not losing too much. Thanks to this cheeky little invade from Balkan.
Yeah, I was certainly concerned for a second there. Just looking at the minimap, the inline track that Peace had to try and punish and collapse upon him. But well, one of the strengths really of the Lee Sin, isn't it? You can just safeguard away and truly, as the namesake mentions, yeah, be safe.
Yeah, so lane's playing out to the most part as they would be expected. You know, Peace getting that early push in bot lane into the bounce from PGG, and Winter getting the push into the top side. We talked about, you know, how proficient TN is on Jace. Wondering if he's going to be able to play against it, you know, with the same level of ability, because he does have all that experience. He knows how this matchup goes. But for the most part, he's just going to be left farming under his turret while Winter gets to shove in the lane and hit his turret.
Yeah, he'll be no doubt grateful that the Hullbreaker existence is nowhere near as prevalent as it once was before, right? The fact that these AP champions really were the most, you know, affected, the ones that struggled trying to, you know, shove those waves and at least deal with it. But see what he can do in this on this occasion. Balkan sneaking around this bottom half of the river, really more so than anything. It looks like he's just waiting for the Drake to spawn.
I mean, this is really, really intelligent from PGG. As we see Rogue going forwards, it's the flash.
Yeah, it is the Hex Flash forwards. Not going to find what they're after. They are going to full set the flash from Cheon, though. And an AD carry without any summon is certainly a risky proposition.
Yeah, but this is really, really intelligent from the side of PGG. I mean, I looked at that invade in Surface Value and I thought that Balkan was just trying to get a little bit cheeky. But what it actually does is it forces Lisa to go up towards his top side, make sure he can secure his camps as Skimmy. Winter knows this situation all too well.
He's on the way, and Winter certainly is saying from game 1 to 2, just leave me alone. Thankfully, this time he can just knock them back and say gank elsewhere.
Yeah, he's been really good, especially in game 1 too, you know, absorbing this pressure. And Peace is going to have to commit quite a lot towards his top side. Rogan's coming up to answer, so Winter shouldn't lose too much of this wave.
Looking for the flash forward. They switch the aggro on towards TN, but he's just able to body slam out of harm's way. And Rogue's time is invested. It's not going to find anything, but at least it's going to give him the confidence to push up this wave and farm those minions.
Yeah, that flash was really, really unexpected from Winter then. And you have to think that it might come back to bite him in the long run. You know, having no flash versus Gragas means you are a very easy target to gank, right? As soon as that explosive cask is available, Gragas can just flash onto your head, body slam you, and knock you back into his jungler. So definitely a bit aggressive from Winter there.
But he was. He saw the green light and he went go.
Yeah, certainly did.
Yeah, certainly did. Just purely send it.
I mean, hey, that's what PGG is known for, right? Hashtag send it. So
absolutely.
Beats is a bit caught out here.
He's a bit of trouble, isn't he? He's going to get caught by a stun into a fear. As Yuri and Rogue link up and put a bit of punishment on towards the set, but probably one of the best champions, well versed in copping all that pain.
Yeah, he's got all that grit built up. If anyone goes in, they could be copping a multiple hundreds of true damage to the face from that Haymaker, so not wanting to opt into that. Despite a lot of the action we've been seeing, Skimmy, we actually haven't seen First Blood fall yet, so it's already been, you know, a bit more stable of a game compared to the first game, rather.
Yeah, and I think it's almost the inverse, right? I feel like there's two different teams that you can find in a playoff situation, right? Game 1 can be rather passive, both teams unwilling to really make the first move, waiting for the first team to make that mistake and punishing that, or you can get, you know, situations where they just go in and say, we're just going to be super aggressive and watch your response. And it feels like we've had those sort of opposites attracting. Game 2 a lot more measured.
Yeah, definitely. Both teams, you know, they sussed each other out in the first one, and now they've decided as PGG's bot lane are just starting up this dragon for Lord Balkan. They've said, come down, mate, we'll get it low for you, and you can just finish this off.
I love how we've just made, you know, this whole skit out of like VIPs and Lords and all that. You know, there's always one player, one focal point, like, yep, let's surround you, let's protect you. This map belongs to you. He is the president.
And his first order of business will be picking up the Mountain Dragon, so not too bad from him there. As Peace again, their bot lane is in a bit of a risky state. PGG not opting to freeze it though, they'd rather push it out and potentially contest this Herald that's going to be spawning in 30 seconds.
So he would be looking for that one. You can see Predator with the Emax, as well as the Arcane Comet, the variation of this new AD carry. Just feels really like we're going further and further away from the ADC archetype, right? We're just basically saying AD champions are AP, just fight from afar. And we can look to try and skirmish in that regard. In we go for what could be the first skirmish of this game. 8 minutes in, looking for the first blood. Balkan! He flashed onto his head. The caster disengaged away, but the smite to keep him alive. Phenomenal juggling of the HP bars. The fear goes out. Yuri's looking for it as he's got the Shadow Surge there. He wants to find resets. And the team are back behind him, ready to force out punishment. There is the flash away. And another situation where PGE just look to run it back from bot to top. They continue to fight. The Herald has been engaged, but the personal space is there on towards 2 Chain. Gonna rip back those feathers, but only gonna find Rogue.
It doesn't stop, Skimmy. I mean, in that first skirmish, Red Buff being the MVP, they're blocking the charm from Appy, making sure he isn't able to get that reset on the ultimate. And then Balkan finding the angle onto Lisa, who had no flash, and taking him down for first blood. And again, Skimmy, we're seeing the PGG time and time again are just playing these skirmishes a lot cleaner than the side of Peace.
I feel like it's almost like a valid assessment, right, to view this one as a bit of a battle between the mechanics, right? Who can excel better in these sort of close quarter moments. And certainly Balkan is just rolling, you know, the highest on that dice every single time. Always able to find the movements, the pressure, and the isolated target to get that good injection of gold and to corral the rest of the team around him to find moments afterwards. But this is good from Peace, right? To answer back, to settle themselves, to respawn, come back onto the map and say, no, this time we will get the Herald.
Yeah, so they bring Charon up for this, just to make sure they're going to secure it in the 5v4. But I mean, look at this bot side here. Predator's denying a lot of CS, and is actually going to pick up some turret plates himself. So a lane swap's going to come out from Peace to make sure that Charon doesn't miss out on too much. Is going to be able to Herald towards this top side. And you know, you don't trade against Herald because they're going to get the first turret.
They always will, but Predator certainly is making it rain in more ways than one, right? Getting all that gold once again. Deja vu to game one, absolutely. But Peace will do the exact same. Farm those plates, instant summon on the Herald, and this time find the first turret themselves.
Yeah, very nice trading from both teams. You know, despite them getting the first turret, Peace are only going to be around 1,000. Gold ahead. Next Dragon spawning in 2 minutes. You would imagine that Peace are wanting to opt into a lot of these fights. You know, Jace particularly isn't as strong in these early to mid-game skirmishes as something like the Gragas. You know, just because Jace is reliant on getting that mana immune, getting a lot of his damage through items, whereas Gragas is just pure, you know, in your face, throwing out a lot of CC, being really disruptive in the team fight. So it'll be interesting to see how Peace want to play out these next couple minutes. And how they're going to look to put pressure on to PGG.
Yeah, can they try to abuse some spike timings, right, with compositional differences, if they can find those moments to, you know, jump in and, you know, take down those champions which are buying time with these tiers getting stacked on fruit. Certainly could be a big talking point here, as Chan is already sitting on that Eclipse. Sitting very pretty in that regard, no boots, but does not seem to matter, as he's got so much raw stats.
Yeah, Eclipse is a really big spike for Xayah. I mean, alongside the Manamune as well, but she starts doing so much damage, and that extra shield and Omnivamp actually makes her quite a nuisance because, you know, suddenly you have the Jace doing the EQ, but if Xayah can hit a wave, she can actually manage to heal up quite a fair amount from that. So, Balkan, Mr. President, has picked up the Gore Drinker in base, so he is slightly ahead of the curve of Lisa, but he shouldn't be too far behind him. He's essentially got all the components. Just needs to finish that off in base.
No doubt about it, sitting on the Krugs as it stands right now. Farming up a tree, waiting to find his moment, back to base they go, but will they be allowed to do that? That is the question, Max. 20 seconds, and the second Dragon of this game will be spawning, and Pinternet are here nice and early.
Yeah, what's important to note here is that Tien actually opted to push out an extra wave in the top side, meaning he's going to be here late, so Winter is getting here early to be able to throw out some of that potential poke, and we see it onto Cheon. If you get him low enough, he's not going to be able to enter the fight at all.
He's certainly going to be quite happy, though, that he didn't get forced to burn any of those summoners or his ultimate. He will still have that available for this next team fight. The charm goes out of Fog of War. Ro cops it. Ooh, don't know whether he wanted that. Zenith Blaze. He's going to eat some fruit and find himself back up at 50% as Balkan is on to the Dragon. And we've got a fighter out to break out. Oh, very low. Out goes the bottom time. In goes Yuri, fighting with the Shadow Surge. He's got the reset. He's forced to flash away, going right back into the arms of his team, but set with the haymaker, the suplex over, and he's out of there. Unbelievable there from Beats, the moves and the swagger to pull things out here. The Drake, forget about it. The team fight is all we're after. It's a 4v4 and everybody's low.
Yeah, look at Appy going in, landing the charm. Predator's going to go down here.
Oh my god, look at the Maker Ray! Oh, so close! The cask is enough. The barrel secures it. The solar flare onto 2. They are flirting with danger. So low are their health bars. But Winter finds the double and ultimately pens in that find them all.
And how many times are we going to see this, Skimmy? I mean, it's just such close team fighting, but at the end, PGG take it out again. Belkan on the back end, that Gordon kid coming in so clutch, managing to get so much healing off it in the fight there. I mean, it looked good when Peace got that pick onto Rogue. I was surprised they didn't commit more. Beats having access to the ultimate, having the level advantage, but not opting to go for it. And then Yuri managing to find Cheon in that backline there after using the ultimate, and he just goes down. And from then on, it's just PGG's fight to clean up. As we see it again here, this is what I'm questioning about Skimmy. I mean, we see Tian on the top side, the cast goes wide, and Yuri, look at that ultimate, just picks off Cheon, and there's not much damage left after that.
There really isn't. And I mean, you can see the vulnerability of the bullet time, right? It has to be cancelled nice and early, but you can almost make an argument that it forced the rest of the piece to have to respond, to be drawn in. It's certainly such a close affair, really. Here you are juggling with the composure, the cooldowns, and the setup to say, well, we need to get the first pick, because if we can win out.
Yeah, no one can follow up on Appy's charm really quickly there. That's the main difference maker in that team fight. You know, if they all can go on to Praetor at that one time and pick him off, the fight could have ended up differently. But, you know, they are split, and then Balkan and Winter, once they're left in the back end, they are just so good at mechanically outplaying these 2v2, 2v3 situations even. And PGG, you know, their Gauntlet's only 400, but they are 2 dragons up.
Yuri's in trouble. Good inline track here from Lisa. Appy also cutting off the flank as well. TP going to be utilized on that top lane wave. Buying time for this one. Yuri got the Shadow Surge primed and ready to go. Winter jumps in, but automatically falls on down. It's a shutdown as both AP carries find themselves into this game, and Penzin are forced to scurry away back to the hills.
And I think Winter forgot he's not playing Malphite there. Jace is not a champion that you can TP into the middle of 3 members on. I mean, just instantly gets one shot, and what was just going to be Yuri getting picked off turns into 2 kills for the side of Peace, who are now comfortably ahead, almost 1,000 gold in this game.
He had nowhere else to go, Max. I mean, the top tier 1 was already gone. There was no other vision, there was no wards, there was literally no other play. He had to hit the TP to try and threaten the disengage, but Peace were having none of it.
Yeah, really nice proactive play, picking up the misposition there. And this Herald is up. You know, Tian's still having access to the TP, so I'm wondering if they are going to fight it. You know, if we take stock of items now, you'd say that Peace are feeling quite comfortable. You know, they've got Mythics completed on everyone except the supports. Having the Gore Drinker on Lisa means that he's a lot more comfortable in these extended fights, being able to get off multiple heals, hopefully. And 2 Everfrosts mean that, you know, if you get caught out by a single ability, you're not moving for ages.
You certainly aren't, and that is going to be one of the limitations of a melee champion, right? Sort of sat there, hoping, praying. There is an argument to be made, though, that the Crescent Guard, his ultimate, could certainly just completely cancel out the bullet time, but it did cop that nerf, making it only last a second shorter than it did before, right? And hence a big reason why we haven't seen Xin in a fair bit of time. But still, the champion itself is certainly very adept at the skirmish style of gameplay.
Yeah, and Skimmy, I think we're going to see another fight around this Herald. Tien has quite a good flanking position here.
Oh, Balkan! He's just smite stolen it, but the question is, can they get in the vicinity to even claim it? Or was it just a denial? The Solar Flare goes out. Stun! Oh, the Dragon Rage. What was that, Max? It was a thing of beauty. And now they're forced to disengage away, especially now that the Crescent Guard has expired. And Appy's just teasing at the idea of maybe one more pick, but they just can't find it.
Balkan, I mean, if you didn't want to ban his Lee Sin after game 1, surely you do it after this game. Secures the steal onto the Herald and kicks through essentially the entire team of Peace and picking up a kill there. It's just an absolutely flawless fight from him. As we take a look again, Rogue is trying to keep out Tien from the bottom of this fight, but keep your eyes on Balkan here. He lands the Sonic Wave onto the Herald, and as soon as the eye gets popped, goes in, and what a beautiful smite that is.
I mean, it really is. Nothing on this map is free. The ultimates go across. Balkan hitting the Dragon's Rage. He's basically Nautilus in the jungle. I mean, that's an ultimate from the Naut instead of a Lee Sin.
Yeah.
The entire team is up in the air, scratching their heads.
Just so good. He's such a pleasure to watch on these mechanical champions. It's Tien. Predator doesn't know he's here.
Oh, no! The flash away. Far out. We've had a few moments like that, and it could have almost been the meme come true once again. Predator in the mid lane.
And that's big, Skimmy. That's really, really big. The Dragon's up in 30 seconds. They've spotted out Balkan. And now Predator's going to have to take a really, really long path around the side to if he even wants to enter this fight. So, yeah, whilst he doesn't go down there, it makes this Dragon fight so much harder for the side of PGG.
Yeah, he's going to try and find his angles, right? Bullet time is up. Only has someone to heal there available for him. Yuri has isolated Tien to the side. Blocking off his entrance into the river. Appy behind enemy lines right now. They haven't spotted him out. He can get the biggest charm, the biggest flank, but the team is already dead. Lisa's down for 28 seconds. And that is a bit of a disaster. Yuri hits them with the ultimate to deter them from going into this fight anymore. It's a 5v4, and Pensnet aren't going to take this one lightly, though.
Peace is still looking really confident. I mean, look at Yuri on the backline. Appy's going in.
Yuri looking for it. Appy has already committed with his ultimate. Unable to find the kill once again. I mean, he's finding these charms, Max, but it's just no follow-up.
Yeah, look how far ahead he is of the rest of his team. I mean, even if he does land a charm, who's going to follow up? The rest of the team are focused on zoning off Yuri as that shock blast is huge.
This time Peace is split apart, and this time Appy is punished for being far too extended. The bullet time to say, where are you going? Because you're running straight back to the fountain. A nice little pick off there from Chen to find a shot that onto the key carry of them all. And Tien is just a little bit too tanky to take down for a fourth.
Yeah, Tien narrowly escapes, but again, Skimmy, it's the same issue. Peace just aren't being decisive onto killing one member. I mean, you talked about it. Appy is landing these charms, but who is following him up there? All the other three members of Peace just feeling so unconfident in their ability to go forwards in these fights, and PGG are going to put themselves onto sole point with this Dragon.
They certainly are. Let's run it back one more time, because, I mean, you can really see it here. They're so concerned at the flank of Yuri. They're in this kind of suspense of, like, Dragon, back up Appy, or watch our flank.
Yeah, and Appy goes, he's doing so much work here, but after that charm misses, PGG have got Peace in a really nice spot, and then Rogue just committing, and as soon as Appy goes down, I mean, there's so many low health bars that all that's left for PGG is to clean up.
Certainly was a great little shutdown there from Chaeyoung, but fighting a bit of a losing battle on this one as this is an extended replay. The kill goes across the Praetor to answer back and to also now find his own individual bounty.
Yeah, look at the CS numbers of the top lane of Skimmy. I mean, both are just sitting at, you know, roughly a bit over 5 CS per minute. It speaks to how much fighting there has been in this game. You know, they haven't had the opportunity to go into that side and take his waves as a charm.
That was a charm, a thing of beauty. Appy really is trying to be the difference maker in this. So Balkan goes back in though. He doesn't care. He wanted to try and find value from the Gore drink here. And whilst he did, it wasn't enough to try and survive all that.
And Winter gets his TP cancelled on the bottom side of the map as another charm.
Appy is trying to dredge this or drag his team across the finishing line and do it all on himself. We can understand why this Ari's getting first picked.
Yeah, he's an absolute monster on the pick. I mean, taking the game into his own hands, saying we are not going 2-0 down in this series, but really, really nice play from Peace. You know, they're adapting to this mid, to playing around mid here, making sure that PGG, whenever they're walking in to get control of that Baron, they're walking into a charm, they're walking into a set. Really nice control from them.
Certainly is the power of the pick, and we can understand why. We just need to see it come together as a beautiful little pattern when they set up for these objectives, because that has been the biggest weakness that I've observed at this stage here, Max, is they're clearly strong, and they've clearly got the tools to engage, but it's just the coming together of it all. It's just been a little bit all over the show.
Yeah, it certainly has. PGG pressuring them off towards mid lane here. Balkan looking like he's just going to run forward and hit the turret himself. I mean, what a chat here in this jungle role, but PGG are going to be respecting that it is a delicate dance around Baron. I mean, the Soul is spawning in 2.5 minutes, just about. As an ult, yeah, it's just going to be a trade.
Just a trade between both AD carries there, but it's enough of a trade to push them back and stop them from protecting that mid-tier 1. That's going to be the second turret now that Pensnet have found. They've opened up the side lanes and they are marching through the mid lane as they've now got inline track to work between mid and bot. Look at Yuri's positioning. Certainly, if there was an overextension by Peace, he was there to punish, but he was on vision. That was certainly enough to escort these minions in.
Yeah, absolutely. And this mid turret going down is really, really big for the side of PGG. Obviously, they're a team who are wanting to play for control around the side of the map. That Jace damage is filthy.
It's the item spike, isn't it?
Yeah, it is gross. But 2 minutes on this next dragon, having that mid turret down means that they can push their vision line up that much further while feeling safe. So a nice pick by them in the mid lane. Oh, come on.
Fancy feet though by Cheon. Not going to get kicked by this Lee Sin anytime soon. This time he has the flash, and Insec is certainly on the cards. But this time also, Max, I mean, this game is so much closer. This time in game 1, we were starting to creep in towards, what, 7 to 8k gold leads?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely feel, Skimmy, like the next fight at this dragon is really what's going to be the fight that blows the game open. You see, people are buying stopwatches now. I mean, Yuri has that in his inventory. Balkan, you would imagine having a death stance soon. So a lot of people really gearing up, acknowledging the significance that this fight might have on the game.
Looking for it. Once again, the Featherstorm is there. The kick did confirm. But locked in the air, it wasn't going to do a thing. I'm wondering if that's going to put it on cooldown, if there was any weird interaction with that one, or if that's not just a visual bug on the spectator client.
Yeah, so the Dragon's Rage is still going to be available, but the Featherstorm from Xayah is going to be down. I'm wondering what the cooldown is on it. It looks like it will be up for Dragon just because of how much CDR he has. But again, PGG acknowledging that if they can burn this Xayah ultimate before these big fights, it's really, really hard for Cheon to play the game because there's so much engage he has to look out for that if he misses a single thing, he's just going to get blown up instantly.
He certainly is. Let me just look at the setup that Pentanet have already showcased in a lot of these fights in these concentrated areas of the map. They lock it down, they've got the vision, they've got that high-pressed line, as you mentioned only moments prior. And it's very hard for them to try and reclaim things if they don't have the inline. Tien, oh my god, on a one-man mission. He is a one-man army. But he's going to fall on down here, so incredibly low. The Ignite is not enough for lethal, but in goes Yuri with a two-man fear. The ultimate, the reset, the road, the collapse, the beats, the haymaker with the shield, which is rapidly expiring as the bullet time instantly discontinued. But it does not matter. Pentanet have found blood in the water, and they found Tien on the flank, hugging the alcove. But he won't find much more than that one. The turnaround from Beats on a bit of a suicide mission. In he goes 1v4. But they're fighting such an uphill battle.
I mean, what are they doing, Skimmy? What is Tien doing taking that Hexgate to his death? I mean, sure, it works out fine if the enemy team isn't aware, but, those Hexgates are so slow now. As Appy is looking for a charm, potentially, it does land.
Oh, Everfrost, he's dead. Balkan's in trouble. Blast code. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. In goes Winter, and he says, I'll find redemption. Oh, he gets traded, though. Cheon does take him down, but ultimately the prize and the spoils of war go away at Pentanet.
Yeah, a really, really questionable fight from the side of Peace. I mean, you get seen. Like, it's not like you're invisible as you take this Hexgate, and he gets immediately engaged on. And once your Gragas is chunked out, your main engage, your main tank is this low, it becomes really hard to fight. And then Yuri does a nice job landing the Vex ultimate, and they just slow chase them down, pick up the soul, and Skimmy, what was a very, very even game, you'd have to say he's in the favor of PGG now.
Could have been such a quicker fight there, but a beautiful charm instantly cancelling out the bullet time. But yeah, quite right. I mean, Pentanet are just saying, we're in no real risk of losing this one. We're handshaking you at every opportunity to try and force the fight in peace. They're trying to be proactive, but on vision like that, it was just crazy.
Yeah, and you take a look at the items now, Skimmy. I mean, there's double stopwatches available for Yuri, so he's going to have no fear engaging into these fights, knowing that he has so much stasis to back him up. And Winter at 2, I mean, well on the way to his third item. We talked about how Jace is spiking in this mid game. Well, he is well and truly spiked at this stage. Those shock blasts are going to be doing huge damage to Cheon and Appy.
It certainly is. It's really now a battle between the Misfortune and the Jace to try and see who can complete that Cerulda's Grudge. At first, they've got identical itemization, and it is paying off big time. Forget Ezreal with these cheap item spikes. This is the new wave, and it is putting in considerable tempo in this game. Soul Point has been confirmed, and Baron is there as well. A beautiful solar flare, and that's the only invitation that Yuri needed to go on through. They locked down free in the enemy blue sides, and now they're going to try and find this team fight afterwards. Protif, undeterred from this one, stands and delivers like a turret, waiting for the moment to unleash and rip apart that bullet time. It's not even called upon.
And PGG using the same trick they did last game with Winter and Balkan being the two people to hit Baron while the rest of the team baits. You don't often think that it's going to be the top and jungle who are the ones taking the Baron, but it's the way it's going to be as TN is caught out again.
He's stunned and he's locked in place and cops a full channel of that bullet time. And he tried to defend, but it just wasn't enough. Appy, with a heroic effort like he's done all series long, continues to find a pick. And he's just given them a little bit more hope.
He's been so good for Peace this entire series, this game in particular, landing so many crucial charms. I mean, Skimmy, that's probably the inhibitor there if Winter doesn't go down. So a really nice pick to sort of stem the bleeding a little bit. It still is a really rough situation. I mean, you take a look at the gold, PGG ahead comfortably 5k with the soul, so not even counting the gold value and stats from that, which is really, really huge. Yeah, short of a miracle fight here, it's going to be extremely hard for Peace to come back in this game.
It just feels to me, Max, like there's just far too many threats in this game to try and deal with. You're like, well, we take down the Lee Sin. That's great, right? 4v5, surely. But then you look at Yuri, the most farm in the game, an absolute weapon with 11 stacks now on the book.
He bought a Medjay.
That's what I mean, right? Like, he's that confident in this game. He's like, this is a solo queue now.
Buying Medjay in pro play has to be one of the most demoralizing things to see if you're on the enemy team. I mean, it just says that not only have I got this many kills, but I'm confident that I'm going to keep getting more and I'm not going to die. So Yuri really, really confident heading into this later half of the game. And I mean, why shouldn't he be? He's been playing really, really well the entire game.
Bit of a demon in these sideways, just vacuuming up every bit of farm that the game has to offer, certainly keeping it on pace for CS per minute. But Pensnet with the Baron, only 45 seconds remaining, putting in a lot of punch. They found themselves a huge 5k lead as a result of this one, and they're working their way towards doubling that.
Yeah, and really smart play here from PGG, you know, setting up the push on both lanes. If it's only one lane, oh! Wow. I have no words.
Very close.
Yeah, I mean, when that happens to your AD carry, I mean, it sort of exemplifies the game as a whole, right? It's just so tough for him to play. He can't even get in range to do damage without Winterer one-shotting him almost with that shock blast, and it looks like it's going to be 2 inhibitors going down for the side of PGG.
Question now becomes the piece, though. What is your next out in this game? Will you be given another chance to try and force that fight? You've lost 2 inhibs. You need this Baron buff to expire. It now has. Yuri was certainly teasing it going in once again with that Shadow Surge, but you're looking towards, you know, individuals like Appy, like Tien, with a flash, with an engage, to try and pick apart somebody and say maybe now. There's an Elder in a minute. There's a Baron, well, a world away, but surely if there's ever a time to try and flip a game and flip a series, you're counting your seconds.
Yeah, it has to be on this Elder, Skimmy. I mean, if you give this over, it's just essentially a process of crossing your T's and dotting your I's here for PGG. They can just walk in and throw Jace poke. And with the Elder, they should be able to close out the game. So I think here, you're right. You know, Appy does have that Death Cap. He does have that Shadow Flame. He can dish out a lot of damage. He just needs to put himself into a position where all of Peace can focus on really blowing up one person, because there is so much stasis on the side of PGG. I mean, there's the GA for Balkan, there's the Zhonya's for Yuri, and Praeton's picked up a stopwatch for himself too. So, I mean, there has to be a really quick, really decisive engage, or else it's going to be tough.
Timing could be quite nice, though, with those super minions starting to flood the mid and bot side of the map. They can do the dance. They know they're under no great time constraint to really force this one to close out the game. They've got a huge gold lead as it is. They've got a huge item advantage as it is. Just let the minions in the game and force Peace to disengage away, because they're all in on this.
Yeah, you have to go now for your Peace. It doesn't get any better as the Hexgate from Appy. He's got himself a nice flank, Skimmy, as we approach this fight. For PGG, like you said, just going to disengage, say, we've got the minions pushing in the mid, pushing in bot. We don't need to start this up. You guys are the ones who have to engage.
Look at the minimap as it stands. Yes, Appy has to deploy. He has to make something happen. He tried to take out Balkan. He's down to 50%. The Solar Flare on top of one man's head. Tien goes in. He's just going to fall on down, though. He's completely isolated from the rest of his team. Yuri jumps in as well. Going to try and flex his pipe in this game. Cheon surviving by the skin of his teeth, but he's gone out of this fight, as are Peace chances of pulling off the miracle reversal in a game number 2. The poke from the Jace with the Hextech Soul on top of everything, that alone was a 1v9, as they are going to find the ace and close out for a 2-0.
Yeah, very, very nice team fight from PGG, and speaks to their discipline as well, Skimmy. I mean, the fact that they didn't start the Elder Dragon, look how many minions are in the base. I don't think PGG even needed to come to this. The minions would just finish the job for them, but definitely a statement win from PGG saying, you know, we didn't just get lucky in the first game. We really are the team that are going to take it to you in team fights. We're going to take it to you in these skirmishes, and we are going to out-mechanics you.
They certainly are, and on every front in that game, once again, they are determining the pacing, the comprehension of what is the way to play a best-of-5 series against us, and that is, well, we just take objectives, we take team fights, we take skill checks, and you bet your bottom dollar they'll win on every single front.
Yeah, I mean, Winter again having a really pop-off performance on this Jace. We saw several EQs that almost one-shot Cheon from full health, so really, really great performance on him. And playing both sides, right? I mean, he played the Malphite in Game 1, got an insane amount of kills, and then played the Jace in Game 2 and also did the same. So this guy is definitely looking like a player to watch as the series goes on.
Certainly is the real deal in this series, and certainly when called upon, that is what you want from your players in a playoff situation here, Luke, because really for us, I mean, you're now staring down the barrel of your piece of that potential cursed 3-0, which lots of us predicted.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate for the lads in Peace now because their backs are completely up against the wall. This next game is do or die for them. Otherwise, they're going to go down into that lower bracket and have to make the gauntlet run if they want to even have a hope towards MSI. But I think right now, Kitty, the way that we've been looking at this series, they've been playing a whole lot through top, but it doesn't seem to matter because Winter seems to be able to sniff those ganks out and just completely walk away and come out fine.
Well, looking at the draft, I actually respect Peace for swapping it up, going with the set support and Gragas top, providing some type of engage for these team fights, but set support is quite an awkward pick for these team fights after laning phase because you need to have flash for those crucial engages, and if you don't get a flank on that MF or the Vex in the backline, it's really hard for the team to actually follow up and engage for these fights. But I believe Laura on Twitter, she tweeted that Gragas has a 37% win rate, and shout out to Rusty because this is going to be Rusty's trap picks. It seems that OC actually doesn't know how to pilot Gragas for these competitive games, while other regions actually do a lot better with this champion. And I need to give a lot of respect to Api. Is literally just an Api show for these games. He's 1v9ing, the only person who's willing to pull the trigger with those charms and flanks with that ulti. Meanwhile, the rest of the team is extremely split for these team fights. Once again, just like Game 1.
Yeah, you can really see that there is that little bit of a disconnect, right? And Max, you know, looking at this series, is this where it starts getting in the mind of Peace that this series is already done and dusted, right? Because obviously game number 1, it was pretty clinical from Pentanet, and now coming into game number 2, it looked clinical again. Like, at what point do you start to change this up and say, all right, RP, you've been doing a lot of work on this Ari, but now we need to start putting emphasis onto this Lee Sin and try and give ourselves a little bit of something in Summoner's Rift.
Look, speaking from experience, I know you should never count out Peace when they're 0-2 down in the series. I think that's a really bad mistake to make.
God damn.
But I definitely think, yeah, Belkan has looked absolutely disgusting on this Lee Sin. You just can't give it to him. Whether you're banning it, whether you're first picking it, just don't give the man this champion, right? As simple as that. You've had your 2 games, you've tested it out, you've tried the Xin Zhao into it, and it's just not working. So I absolutely agree, Luke. He should not be getting this in Game 3.
Yeah, it's pretty disgusting, and especially when we look at Winter as well, Skibby. Like, it feels like every single time this guy is given a champion, he does the most damage in the game and is able to, even though that he's got some big carries on his team, still have standout performances.
Yeah, I mean, Winter has been always a solid performer for me, in my opinion. I mean, he came into the league with some very wild, interesting picks, but he's certainly grown to a position where he is, just exceeding expectations, right? And certainly when you've got a coach like Chippy's backing you in the same position there to try and nurture you and develop you, I mean, you're certainly set up for success here. And what a performance it would be if he can go all the way in the perfect 3-0.
Yeah, it certainly does seem like the Pentanet have really been able to get all their pieces together here into playoffs, and it really is starting to show that these guys, even if they have to go up against Chiefs, I'm excited to see what that series is going to look like with the way that Pentanet have been playing. But before we start getting ourselves into game number 3, we've got another From the Fans to talk about here. So let's bring this one up on your screens, ladies and gentlemen. We can have a yarn about this one. Chaos Josh 89 is starting out here with Swiper, Spooks, Swiftbar, Raze, and Elayer. So, Kitty, how do we feel about this one?
Well, I love Eli as well in the support position. No, I'm joking. It's Ayla, Fluke, if you were told that, because a
I'm a
lot of people
small brain,
actually,
it's fine.
it's okay. A lot of people get it wrong. His Twitter bio literally says it's pronounced Ayla, so you're not the only one that gets it wrong. But I really like this comp in general because, not comp, roster, because it's just all of the past Chiefs players from the previous years.
Oh, okay, so a little bit of an interesting one. All right, Max, out of 10, what do we feel about this one?
Honestly, in terms of likability, I'd give it a solid 10. These are some of the most likable players that OCE has ever produced.
All right. Okay, a 10 out of 10. I respect that. So maybe we might be able to get something that might be an 11 out of 10 for everybody at home here. Before we go to a break, ladies and gentlemen, it's time once again to tell you guys you can join the Discord. The LCO Discord is popping off. I know Mac was talking about chucking some dog pictures in there. I know Rusty is going to be chucking up some dog pictures in there as well. I'm sure we might be able to even get some cat pictures out of Kitty as well. So make sure you guys do use !Discord in the chat so you guys can join that Discord and be a part of it. And I'm sure that Mac and Rusty are probably chilling out somewhere, so you might be able to pick their brains through this final game of the series. Speaking of the final game, potential final game, pardon me, it's time for us to go to a break, and we've got game number 3 just around the corner. Pentanet 2-0 up in the series. Can Peace bring it back? Have to wait and find out.
50%, the solid flare on top of one man's head. Tien goes in. He's just going to fall on down though. He's completely isolated from the rest of his team. Yuri jumps in as well. Looking to try and flex his pipe in this game. Cheon surviving by the skin of his teeth, but he's gone out of this fight, as are Peace chances of pulling off the miracle reversal in a game number 2. The poke from the Jace with the Hex Tech stole on top of everything. That alone was a 1v9, as they are going to find the ace and close out for a 2-0.
Hey, look, Menulog.
Please take us to the interview.
I've grabbed Tien for the interview, and Tien, arrogant. Oh, I messed it up. No. Okay, Tien, as
What are you
again.
trying to say?
As again.
What? I'm doing well. Are you saying how is it going?
Yes, you nailed it. Yes, I'm. Well, I'm.
Hands down, my favourite menu pod so far that we've ever seen. Kitty absolutely smashing the Australian accent out there. I enjoyed that you went for the first one, didn't really hit quite hard for you, so you chucked another two in there, and unfortunately Tien wasn't able to grasp the Australianness here. But, I mean, it has been a rough day for Tien so far, you know, in this series, so maybe he might, you know, have to get a few of these extra how's it goings from Kitty to try and lift his spirits up, because so far, Skimmy, it's been bit of a rough park here for our top laner from Peace because, and I mean, at this point, it looks like they're trying to play through him, but it just seems like it's really not converting onto the Rift.
Yeah, I mean, Kitty's really asking the valid questions, right? You know, he's, 15 deaths so far from first 2 games. You certainly want to see a bit of emphasis, right, on him, you know, showcasing confidence in that pre-game interview, right? But he's always been that player that you feel like has always been the outskirts of trying to win a playoffs, and certainly staring down the barrel of a gun of looking at an 0-3 and straight into the lower bracket would not be a good way to start off that campaign. So would love to see him just bust out something crazy. If it is to be like a pocket pick, Riven, even something wild like a top lane Hecarim or a Lilia, we know he's got it deep in that champion pool. He's got like so many unique champions this split, so certainly a chance for him to shine.
All right then, Kitty, where do we feel like the confidence can come from Peace? Is it all behind Appy, considering how well he's played in the first 2 games?
It's definitely dependent on Appy, but something I picked up from the previous game is that we actually saw Tien on a tank top laner, which was the Gragas, but we also had Cheon and Beats on Set and Xayah in the bot lane, where Peace actually didn't grab any dragons despite having a strong bot lane for last game's draft. So I'm really wondering what their goal is for the entire game, because you can't really play towards a Gragas as the strong side, because that's not going to bring you anywhere when you are versing the Jace.
Okay, also a few things that they might need to change up here going into game number 3 as well. It looks like Peace has decided to go for the blue side once again here, Max. So it seems like they are prioritizing that blue side here for this best of 5. Backs against the wall. Is this where you just bust out something wacky and wild and hope you can try and get a map on the board?
I think you just go straight back to comfort. I think, you know, whatever the players feel most comfortable on, this is obviously the most high pressure situation they will be in. It is the game that decides whether they're going to continue in the upper bracket or drop to the lower bracket. So I think just go straight back to comfort. You know, draft a comp that you've played heaps of times in practice. Make sure everyone's really, really confident on their champions, and you just have to hope that that'll get you a win.
Well, fingers crossed here with the backs against the wall for Peace, so they can bring this into a game number 4. It is time once again for the Dare fan vote, ladies and gentlemen. You guys can use your channel points to predict who you think is going to win this game so far. If history does repeat itself, this could potentially be a 3-0 for Pentanet, and we could be getting ourselves into our second series of the night relatively fast here on the desk. But you guys can use those channel points, put it in the prediction, and we'll see it in game as well. So with this now, it is time for us to start talking about the fact that it is backs against the wall here for Peace, and this is where you really got to dig deep and really got to kind of pull those championship qualities out, right, Kitty? And, you know, who's really going to be the hype man for this team? Who's really going to try and get everybody excited to try and get this game under their belts?
Well, hype man, I believe it is Lisa. He's quite the funny fellow on the team. But guys, if you want Lee Sin banned this game, please type 1 in Twitch chat. I can't believe that Balkan got Lee Sin 2 games in a row, smurfed on both games. Just drop the ego and either ban Lee Sin or pick it away with your blue side piece. Come on, guys.
Well, I mean, so far they've gone for the Ari right, Skimmy, so maybe they're, you know, valuing that a little bit higher than what they are the Lee Sin.
Yeah, this is such an interesting conundrum, right? Because I feel like player power versus coach is sort of like discussion point of like, well, what's more valid? Surely if you're Appy and you're being told we need to relegate you somewhere else, you know, you can't get your free pick of the mill, you'd be feeling, but look, mate, like, look how much I'm doing in these games. But the same consideration, you've definitely got to look at that Lee Sin and say that needs to be addressed. Because I feel like first game, you scope things out. Second game, it's a salty run back with identical drafts saying, oh, we just need to play better. Third game, you don't really have a chance. You need to make something happen, whether that be drastic or not.
Hey, do we feel like that this could be, you know, a 3-time run back here, Max? Because so far it seems like Peace are not budging with their drafts.
I think it would be so crazy if Peace just go, you know what, we're going to first pick the Ari again and lead Lee Sin up. I think that'd just be unheard of, almost doing it for the 3rd time in a row. So I would be very, very surprised if we see that. I think it is a lot more likely, like Kitty said, that it's either banned or first picked. Because, yeah, Belkan, he has shown that he's great on a variety of champs, but, you know, test him a little bit, right? Like, we've seen 2 games now where he's absolutely smurfed on this Lee Sin. Test these other champions. At least put him onto something that you're not completely sure that he'll want me to on the game on.
Yeah, I mean, at least help the Chiefs out a little bit here as well, as they say in the upper bracket. You give them a little bit of this extra VOD review on some different champions, because at this point, all he's played is Lee Sin, right? And you're going to go into that next series if you're the Chiefs, right? Can you be like, all right, we're going to ban Lee Sin. Let's see what Balkan can play.
Well, we've seen Balkan smurf on the Jarvan as well. He just pulls the trigger for these team fights for PGG and the team follows up. It's quite a clear indicator when the team fight begins, which is something I really like about PGG. We've also seen the Rek'Sai as well. We've seen a range of champions coming out of Balkan, so it's not going to be possible to shut down his champion pool, but definitely take away the Lee Sin, because I just believe Korean Lee Sins are built different and it's just in their blood.
I mean, he's proven it so far. I guess as we switch gears a little bit here before we get into Champions Select, Skimmy talked a whole lot about Peace. I think Pentanet right now being 2-0 up. No, I think this is a team that kind of likes to have a little bit of fun and really kind of throw out some wacky stuff. Do you feel like now with the series almost locked up that they might try and change something different?
Yeah, I feel like if there's anybody to experiment, I imagine it probably would be Winter, potentially even Yuri. I feel like Winter's probably the most adept at being, quite flexible in that regard. I wouldn't imagine Praetor would want to try and reinvent the wheel. I mean, we already asked the question, right, will they play AP champions in the bot lane, unlock other options elsewhere? I don't know if Praetor would be one to try and entertain that idea. I feel like he'd be quite stubborn or quite firm in his approach of saying, just give me any kind of AD carry and I can deliver. I feel like the shoe's on the other foot really for Cheyan to say, well, can I play the stuff like the Ziggs, for instance? So, yeah, I feel like if Pentanet were to try and throw a curveball, I would be looking towards Winter.
I'm excited to see what that top lane can bring us as well. And I think it was interesting that you brought up Cheyan as well, right? Because he's been the only player so far to be able to get a pentakill here in the LCO 4 split 1. And I think he was a big kind of cornerstone for them, right, Max? In a lot of their form they had early on in the split. And I think now these players have really started to, figure out Cheyan a little bit, right?
Yeah, I mean, the Peace bot lane has looked almost invisible this entire series compared to Praetor and Rogue, who have looked like really, really key members of PGG in a lot of these fights. They just have seemed to be on the back foot a lot of the time. Obviously, the first game they got weak-sided, that's understandable. But in this second game, they had a lot better matchup they could potentially have played out, and they just didn't really find those windows. So yeah. I think it's going to be on them to really rally the team behind them and have a performance worthy of staying in the playoffs.
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, it is time for game number 3, ladies and gentlemen. Champ Select is ready, so let's jump into it and see if PGG can get themselves a 3-0.
Please, no.
As you say. Yes, as you say, it is match point here for Pentanet. So, let's see what happens as we are, well and truly through this one, certainly, as it seems to be that Pentanet have got themselves the Ari this time.
Yeah, first pick of the Lee Sin by Peace, exactly what we talked about, really nice. And I think that the Graves response is something that, can work, but obviously it doesn't want to skirmish as much as the Lee Sin, obviously opting to farm instead, scale up and just beat the Lee Sin in the late game. So Praetor picking his signature of Phalios, and talk about comfort for Peace. They've gone with the Camille, they've gone with the LeBlanc. You'd say almost everyone here is really, really happy with the champion that they've picked.
I feel like there's a lot of signature picks here, right? You think of Tien, you know that he's very good on this Camilla as well. Appy, as you already mentioned. Lisa, certainly insane on the Lee Sin as well, and a big reason why we're saying, well, I feel like that is just going to be contested. So many AD carry bans, bear in mind, hence why the Tristana has actually come out as a result. And then the final pick is going to be the Poppy. I thought if there was ever a world where something wild could happen, it would be Winter, and he's got it.
I mean, look at how good the Poppy is in this draft. It's versus Camille, Lee Sin, LeBlanc, Tristan, and Nautilus. Every single one of those champions having a dash or some sort of mobility spell that is crucial to how their champion functions. So this is a really, really good spot for Poppy. I think it's going to be able to deny a lot of the engaged potential that Peace have.
This time the shoe's on the other foot though, in that Pentanet will have that pick potential. It's a chance now for Yuri to show up and showcase what his Ahri looks like, how he can find those picks, and whether or not the team is able to facilitate him, unlike Appy has been able to find. He's got this LeBlanc though, and maybe it's just a conscious decision. Yes, Lee Sin has to be locked in if we're going to continue to go for this, blue side first pick priority. Maybe I just need hard damage. Rather than pick potential, rather than a mix of utility, I just need to try and one-shot somebody, whether that be in a 1v1, a 2v2, or more so when I'm playing towards these side lanes.
Yeah, and you talk about playing the side lanes. I mean, what better champion than a Camille, right? Camille is so good at locking down that enemy top laner with that Hextech ultimatum, with the hookshot wall dive, to be able to secure those kills for the LeBlanc. And what I see here is the most standout game for me from TN was versus Order in those early weeks when he picked Camille, roamed around the map, got so much done, and then comes back to lane and gets a solo kill versus an Ornn as well. So look, you've shown you can perform. All of Peace have shown they can perform on these champions. So it's just up to them to rely on that comfort, to dig deep and realize that, hey, we've got nothing to lose. Let's take this game.
Certainly will be the narrative sparkle around comms as it stands right now. Peace coming into this one. They're down 0-2. They need to find some semblance of confidence or comfort, or even just bring it back to bare bone basics, Max. Have some fun on the Rift, because nobody wants to get knocked out in a perfect sweep.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is one of the benefits. I mean, there's not many benefits to being down 2-0, but I guess one of the ones is that there's no pressure, right? I mean, all of that pressure you feel should be relatively alleviated, because you realize that, you know, even if we win this game, there's still 2 more to go. So a lot of the players here will be playing a lot more aggressive because they think that there's nothing really left to lose. So I think that definitely Peace should not be counted out this game. They have a really good comp that really suits their players and their playstyle. And we can already see here, Skimmy, you talked about having fun, Beast and Cheon having a bit of a dance party in this bot lane bush.
Why not? You know, we're locked inside and we're here to game, so might as well get creative on the Rift at the same time. I want to quickly, though, I mean, sort of talk about these comps and what they're sort of aiming to achieve, right? We already talked about the Lee Sin and the LeBlanc being almost like peanut butter and jelly. They just work so well together, but surely now this is the way that Peace can find some strength to really determine the fast, 10 minutes of this game.
Yeah, I really like Peace's comp. They have a really explosive mid-jungle that can obviously pair really well with the Tristana and Nautilus. Both champions that can be aggressive in their own right. And then moving more into the mid-game, I think this Camille and LeBlanc could be a really menacing 1-3-1 sort of duo, right? I mean, Camille isn't going to be able to be matched by Poppy or Ari very comfortably in the later stages of the game. So if they can just get to that stage where, the Camille's on the 1 item, 2 item, it can be really, really good for them to just set up in a side lane and threaten to split push down these turrets.
But they can. They'll be hoping that it works out as easily as you've laid out. As it stands, that is the beauty of having a Nautilus. You can just stand in the brush, instantly zone away these members. But I guess the one big talking point that we're kind of brushing over, right, is the return of the Graves back into the jungle. It's been such a strong individual laner. It's found its fun in the sun, be it in mid lane and top lane, but a welcome return back here in the jungle.
Yeah, I absolutely love seeing Graves back in the jungle. I think it's a lot more healthy for the game than in top lane. I think that he obviously can have the potential to dish out a lot of damage, but one thing that's really worrying me about this Graves pick is there's not too much engage coming out from the side of PGG, right? I mean, you have the Rakan, you have the Ari, but both of those are not really the same hard engage that like stuff like a Nautilus, stuff like a Camille can offer you. And Graves is one of those champions that really needs CC on his team, because without it, he's so short ranged, he's not going to be able to land any of his damage. So whilst Belkan, he has exhibited that he's a really scary jungle player on stuff like Lee Sin, I'm wondering if he's going to be able to pull off the same level of carry performance on the Graves, given the lack of CC from his team comp.
Yeah, and we have seen certain comps run in this similar fashion before. Hold that thought for a second, because the classic level 2 all-in goes out, Chain instantly cleansing off that exhaust. As Predator isn't going to come in, will actually answer back and do more than they did.
Yeah, Beat's going really, really early there. Lisa was down towards this bot side. I'm wondering if he should have just waited a little bit longer for Lisa to get there, and if it could have potentially been an even more explosive trade. But as we look at the summoner spells there, Predator's still having the heal and Rogue still having the flash. There's going to be a 3-for-2 summoner trade in the favor of PGG, so they're definitely not feeling too bad about that one.
Certainly won't whatsoever. And I guess once we get a quick reprieve, just to finalize that previous point, right? The lack of hard CC, there obviously is soft CC, but the hard CC, the lockdown that has been so strong for PGG in this series, will that be their downfall? Will that be the chance for Peace to answer back with a comp that certainly excels in that area? Who knows though? We've heard from the coaches before, who needs CC when you can just kill them? And it might be another one of those cases as they tee themselves up. The flash charm into the hook. Where you going, son? That's first blood.
Yeah, I mean, Winterer is just probably smiling to himself, thinking, Tien, all the times you got to dive me in the first 2 games, I'm getting back at you now. A really, really well-executed dive. And Poppy makes it so hard to escape from these plays as Camille, because you can't use the hook shot to get out. So you're essentially stuck there. And Yuri landing a nice charm flash to secure first blood.
Great part on that to target, and it's that man again, Mr. VIP, the president, that gets the first blood. It just doesn't seem to matter. Whatever champion he's on, he always finds a way.
He does. Balkan is just so good this series and so good this split as a whole. I mean, really ramping up and showing that he can play a wide variety of styles, a wide variety of champions. And interesting that he is going for the Noon Quiver, so he is going to be building in towards, you know, something like the Shield Bow or the Gale Force. Not the typical lethality build that a lot of the Jungle Graves have been opting for recently, as Yuri does have no flash and Lisa's across this wall, but I think it's just going to be the chain. So actually, Peace have brought their bot lane up. They could be looking to dive mid lane, Skimmy.
They've really committed numbers in the area for this one. They're not on any vision unless Yuri or Rogue can try and sneak one into this bush. They had ideas that a collapse is about to happen. And as Rogue one's away, in goes the team. They're going to collapse on towards Yuri and find it. The aggro gets jugged across everybody. And it's a beautifully well-orchestrated dive.
Yeah, really, really nice revenge dive. I mean, they know Yuri has no flash and he doesn't have access to the Spirit Rush at level 6. So really good from them, punishing him. And, you know, Balkan is going to be able to clean up this mid lane, but it does put Yuri quite a bit behind in this matchup that can honestly be very, very volatile.
Uh-oh. I've seen this before. Predator farming up a storm, doing whatever he can. He's going to get jumped upon as Rogue runs up. Instantly flash shield, grand entrance, knock up. Are they going to go for the kill? Cheon! Absolute madman. And she's going to try and deny the party, but they will find a kill either side. Fortunately for Peace, it's Rogue that picks it up.
Yeah, I mean, really nice punish there from Peace. Seeing the Predator had overextended there without having access to both summoners, so they just jump on his head and pick up a nice clean kill. PGG will get the Dragon in response, and Skimmy, one thing I want to highlight is this top lane, right? We know that Poppy is really punishing into Camille, but if we look at this lane, Tian's almost always under his turret. Winter doing a really nice job of punishing him in this counter matchup. Going to be up almost 10 CS after this wave goes in.
Certainly is going to be the Camille we saw him, as you mentioned earlier on in that split, where he's just shoving out the wave, rotating mid, acting as that second jungler in the game, and able to put on an absolute clinic. He is locked in that lane, and really now the burden falls upon Beats to try and make up the dividends, to try and find success elsewhere. He's been very clever on this vision, Hex flashing into the river, not going to be spotted, but there are some question mark pings going out from the side of Pentanet saying something smells a little bit fishy here, and now he will reveal himself.
Yeah, look at both supports. I mean, I'd love to know how long they've actually been spending in bot lane, because to me it just looks like they are doing everything they can to make plays on the rest of the map as a bit of a trade between the 280 carries, but Predator has about 1 billion chakrams, and Cheon does not want to go forward into that.
No, they both fancied it though, didn't they? Cheon certainly with the rapid fire active explosive shot, charged up and ready to go. Would have been praying for lethal with that buster shot, but a red and white Aphelios is always a bit of a menace. So some solo farm for them to find, some solo experience more than anything. And a chance now for these supports to try and find that difference elsewhere on the map.
Yeah, looking like they are going to go start their Herald up here. The one point of worry for Peace, though, is that Winter always has move. We see Lisa up towards this top side, and that's going to be flash from Winter.
Instant respect paid towards it. As Peace have members in the area, they are certainly strong for it. Beats is going to get exhausted and charmed and defeated. He tried to disengage away after the instant flash from the Poppy. Hang on a minute, though. Look at Yuri. He's squared himself up for a potential second solo kill. And these Aries, man, might just be the pick of the series.
Yeah, it's looking like a complete menace. I mean, one charm onto Beats and he will go down, and as soon as that Nautilus is down, that's almost all of your primary engage, right? You don't want the Camille to be going in alone. She can just get blown up really easily, especially against the Poppy. So really nice pick there from Yuri, and Beats, I think, just a bit of a misposition from him, feeling a bit too confident. As we pan down, see the 80 carries locked in there. Eternal wave trades back and forth. Not much really happening there.
You know, it's almost like we've gone back in time, right back to the 80s where we're just playing ping pong. Yeah. Very basic times for them. Just farm the waves, comms go out. Oh, we're going to find moments of brilliance elsewhere. Just don't die. And certainly is easier said than done, but both supports are back in the area and ready to give them a helping hand. More so than anything, both these supports would love to have level 6s. That's a great little face check there by Rogue.
Yeah, really cheeky, throwing out the Q to make sure that they know if Beats is in that bush. And you absolutely raise a great point, Skimmy. As soon as these support champions hit level 6, their skirmishing just becomes so much more deadly, right? Especially Rakan. Rakan isn't really the greatest champion in skirmishes pre-6 unless the enemies have flash, because his W is really easy to engage away from, as Appy is getting quite frisky here. ends up just
Shadow's
walking away.
chains. Yeah, I mean, once those chains connect and get, locked down, much like a Karma, you decide, well, I'm in danger.
Oh, he is so aggressive as TN.
Ooh. The ultimate went out, but it actually has to go into Balkan instead. He's forced to flash away as that ult expires. And in comes Lisa, but not to be outdone by Yuri, who claims him under that mid-tier one. Another 1-for-1 trade, but it is so dangerously close.
Yeah, and a really nice roam there from TN. We mentioned it before, but he is always willing to make these roam plays on these windows when the enemy top laner is based, just exploiting the fact that Winter has gone back. And he does have the hull breaker now, so his lane's quite rough. And a really nice job from TN to be able to dodge, I guess, the really rough period and still be able to collect this wave in time.
Well, welcome back, Hullbreaker, and I feel like in this game it makes a lot of sense, right? Given the fact that TN is really locked underneath that turret, what are you going to do? If it was really rough for you before, it just gets that much worse. Now, look at the poke!
He can actually dive him, Skimmy, on this next wave. If TN doesn't respect it and Lisa doesn't come up, he's getting dangerously low. The Poppy can just dive him. He might have to TP back here even, and this is just Winter again. PGG have had red side 3 times in a row. That's 3 counter picks for Winterer, and he's making it look like it's worth every single buck.
Certainly does look like child's play for him here. The ward goes down. You saw on the minimap Lisa was working his way towards topside if a dive were to be threatened. But he is certainly paying off the trust and the confidence thrown towards him, not only by the coaching staff, but by his teammates, that we will give you 5th pick because it is working out.
Yeah. I mean, he's up almost 30 CS, 2 tower plates as well, just by himself, right? So he definitely said this Poppy pick is working out quite well. As you know, PG dropped the turret. It's not going to break this mid tower, but that's not really their play. They want to go towards this dragon and they want to take it down. And PGG have just had such an immaculate control over dragons this entire series, Gimme.
They really have. Their objective control has been phenomenal. And that's interesting, given that Peace have really been the dragon team of the split. They just have not found a way into that part of the map. Second one claimed now by Pentanet. Instant disengage away as Peace are trying to pick up scraps, but nobody from Pentanet even giving them an F.
Yeah, and look at that fan prediction. It's just so Pentanet or GG favored. All the fans seeing how dominant they've been in the first 2 games. And Skimmy, it's a bit closer, this one, quite reminiscent of game 2 in that there weren't really any huge gold leads seen until around that 3rd, 4th dragon fight. Appy looking towards this bot side. He's so aggressive. I love how he's looking for every single opportunity to try to get a pick, but PGG just too careful.
I mean, it just felt like cue the Jaws music, right? The shark was swimming in the water, hunting down its prey, waiting for Predator to overstep. But no, he's got that discipline. He knows that he's being punished on that play already this game.
Yeah, and this gold, they're just going to keep getting bigger, Skimmy, because we see that both the lanes are quite PGG favored in terms of, Winter is getting the push in top lane. He's able to get plates. He's able to move. And unless Peace do something to switch this up, it's going to be quite punishing. We see now Predator have moved towards his top side, and PGG, if you watch Predator, if you watch his Aphelios in particular, he is known for getting this red white gun, running up towards top side and just absolutely stomping on your turret's plates.
Certainly is a great setup for the lane assignments here. If he's got the chakrams, which are, he's got a lot of ammo in the reserves, they're ready to go. That uncontested will just mince through, acting as really a second Herald. And I mean, this is just great play. Leave Winter on an island, force TN to always have to answer back, but he just doesn't want to, he doesn't want to be there.
Yeah, he wants absolutely nothing to do with this Poppy at the moment. It will be interesting to see the inventory now. So he does have the Sundra, which means that the matchup is a lot more playable, especially since Winter hasn't picked up the Bramble Vest or any heal cut of the like. So TN will be actually able to fight back now in this matchup as where he wasn't before. So look, it's not as bad, but we can see already PGG just taking any opportunity they have and turning it into a turret, turning it into a dragon. They're just playing the map so well.
It just feels like they're winning on 2 fronts, right? Teasing at the idea that we can take down this top lane turret, but hang on a minute, we got to deal with bot lane. They back away from that one secure vision to protect out Winter. That opens up the map for them to return to that play, take down that turret, and once again find that first one in the game. Dragon, I mean, this becomes a scary proposition, right? At what point do Peace decide, well, we need to really start fighting for these ones, because otherwise they just continue to find these soul points.
Yes, Yuri. getting frisky with the Everfrost, and Appy almost gets killed there. But you raise a really good point, Skimmy. It's sort of the question of, you know, is our Camille strong enough? Is our LeBlanc strong enough to be able to fight this? Because right now, I'm looking at the inventories, and Winter just looks so scary for all these champions on Peace. I mean, you've got the Lee Sin, you've got the LeBlanc, and the Camille. All these champions want to jump in, they want to get in your face, but Poppy W negates so much of that. So you really need Tien to be able to pressure on a side lane to drag Winter away from the fight and hope your team can get a 4v4.
And that becomes an interesting sort of mind game in its own right, because he's not going to want to try and face up against the Poppy, but at the same time, I want to try and limit his potential power spiking, right, by bringing them together, nullifying the whole Breaker's effectiveness, and saying maybe, just maybe, we can win a 5v5 on those terms. Appy shouldn't be too far away from completing his first item in the game. That might be what they're really hunting for, but as it stands, he's been sitting pretty and sitting patiently, trying to take down anybody that steps up on that mid wave.
Yeah, and it looks to me like PGG are just very aware of potential plays on the map. We can see Yuri here sitting in this bot bush a long way away from the turret, just thinking that, you know, other Peace members might be there trying to take him down. So they're playing very, very respectfully, whilst also pushing their advantages on the other side of the map. And this is just a really, really disciplined maneuver that just speaks to how high a caliber this team is, really.
You can see there, Rogue is trying to stand just out of range from what the vision that those minions will provide, but there's already a ward in that brush, so Tien will be well aware of this one. It's just going to be a shove and a rotate. Back to river we go. A minute countdown on this third Dragon off the game. A potential collapse upon in the team fight as they've been caught running away straight into their side of the jungle. Beats is deleted. And that's all they need as Lisa's down to 30%. Yuri's teasing the idea of another kill. And he lands the charm max. He really does it.
This
Ari. And they're going to summon the Herald. It's over.
And just like that, Skimmy, the game is blown wide open. All it takes is that one little pick from the side of PGG, a really nice flank from the side of Rogue with the ground entrance and the quickness. And that's 2 mid lane turrets down, Skimmy, and they're going to head towards this Dragon.
What a crazy set of events right there. A 5k swing just like that. And an instant pick. No dilly-dallying around, no nerves. Just straight conviction. That is the move I'm making, and we are going full on for this. Lisa back. They're down numbers, waiting for them to sprint back from the fountain, and rightfully so. Pentner aren't really feeling too concerned by this one, taking their time. They don't have Winter.
Yeah,
oh my gosh. Ari, for me, pick of this series. Between himself and Uppy, they have been phenomenal. Winter with the deepest TP flank is post 14 minutes. He walks in and he walks away and he zones out the rest of Peace.
I mean, Winter does not care at all. Look how tanky he is, Skimmy. He is not afraid of going down whatsoever. I mean, you talked about it, but these Aris, both mid laners, making them just looks like such a broken pick. As we watch it again, look how much value the Poppy W gets here, cancelling the Nautilus dash, and look at Yuri with this charm. I mean, this is just absolutely amazing. He still has 2 charges left.
Ooh.
Fakes the Everfrost onto Cheon to land the charm. And Skimmy, that is just textbook how you want to play your Ari.
If you're picking a champion that's looking for picks, you will not find a better one than that. Predicting the movement and squaring up the opposition. When they saw red, they wanted to get the hell out of Dodge, but they were just not given the chance to do so. And now the game, once again, is held in a situation where you're looking like it's Pentinets to lose. Predator is strong. Everybody is strong. And you're thinking, I'm seeing the writing on the wall. Another 6k lead, a soul point up in the air. What can Peace do? We know they got the tools, they've got the CC. They just haven't found the ideas.
Yeah, and we talked about them having a 1-3-1 win con, but I'm looking at this top lane matchup and it just looks so hard for Tien, even at this point in the game, right? He's only sitting on the Sunder and the Tiamat, whereas Poppy has the Mythic, has the Hullbreaker completed, as that Charm's just going to force out a cleanse. And it's almost like Yuri is using an aimbot here. That's how good he is with these Charms.
Certainly is. He's going in so quick. Between the Shrilliers and the quickness, they really are just that. They're in and out like a flash. Oh, the Charm! So close, a whisker away.
Yeah, if that lands, that's another kill. Chow not opting to flash that instead, as we see. At least he's going to have to use the kick, but I think he's dead.
He certainly is. Collapsed upon from every side, and just checking with the player cams of Peace. They look dejected. They know this game, it's not looking too hot right now. 20 minutes and Baron is spawned and Pentanet are right on it.
It's just brutal, Skimmy. It almost seems like Peace can do no right and PGG can do no wrong. Whenever Peace try to even move towards maybe thinking about making a play, PGG are there to respond, and they're going to get this Baron, Skimmy, and we are staring down the barrel of a clean 3-0.
We certainly are. The charm goes out, the Distort and the Clone, they are popped just at a range there from the sniper setup of Praetus Aphelios. Empowered recalls, and back to base they go, clear out the vision and clear out the idea of Peace having any kind of comeback in Game 3.
Yeah, I mean, from this point on, what can you really do as Peace? You just have to pray that someone mispositions, someone messes up, and you manage to get these bounties, because Skimmy, PGG are just looking so hard to beat in a straight-on 5v5. I mean, look at this Camille. She doesn't even have her boots completed yet at 21 minutes. It's so tough. As Chayon, I don't even think he's going to be able to get this turret.
He's trying, but Winter will literally step up to him. Smack him with the hammer once, and he'll realize, well, that's why I'm an AD carry. I'm just not allowed to play the game. Nothing off this map is free. Look at that! Rogue, as the support, is able to bully out the Lee Sin.
Yeah, he's just so worried that if he takes that grand entrance, that, you know, the whole team of PGG will be there to follow. And I mean, Skimmy, look at the minimap. Look how much vision control PGG have and how aggressively it's placed. I mean, besides that one ward that we're seeing just to the right of Rogue now, there's almost no vision in Peace's own jungle. So PGG are going to feel really comfortable marching down here as we see two people are needed to stop Winterer.
Certainly do. Flash is having to be respected. So much CC coming out of Zari. The Moonlight Vigil, it's a distant afterthought because he's already dead. Staring at the moon. He's down and he is out for 30 seconds, and they certainly need Appy.
Skimmy, I think they're going to even try to end here. They've got a wave. They've got a fair few minions. Tian's not back yet, and Winterer can just tank this turret for however long he wants. Peace are going to have to do something now.
On to the base they go. The last time these two teams met, it was Peace. They got the perfect trio. Now Pentanet looking to answer back for the vengeance of their old roster. In goes Tien with a Hextech ultimatum, and as he's locked them all down, he's the only one to fall on down. Rogue jumps in with the grand entrance, and that's the biggest entrance that Pentanet will find into the upper bracket finals as they secure a fixture with the Chiefs. They're respawning, they're trying, but try as they might, they will not upset this series. Pentanet with the perfect 3-0.
And Skimmy, that extends their win streak to 11 games in a row. This team, they've leveled up so much in the last few weeks, and seriously, they are looking like a team that could challenge the Chiefs.
What a time to find that playoff form. Yes, Winterer, look at me. Tell me what happened in this series, because I'm as confused as you are from every game. The picks, the power, and the performance. Take a drink, take a bow, because Pentanet have found peak form right when it matters.
They absolutely have. I mean, that game and the whole series in general just looked so clean. There wasn't really a point ever that Peace looked like they had a control on the game. And PGG, from role to role, I mean, we talked about Belkan. This game, it was the Yuri and Winterer show. They are just stars in every single role, Skimmy.
They certainly are. And Luke and Kitty, welcome back to this one, because what a series that was. I mean, that was a series that really gave us everything. Luke, I mean, you look at that one and we're thinking 3-0. It feels disingenuous for the caliber of these teams, but it happened.
I mean, it's wild the fact that now we're looking at PGG. We might start calling them the janitors, because that was a 3-0 sweep that nobody really, I guess a lot of people did expect, but the way that it happened in every single one of these games, it just felt so clean and clinical from PGG. It just felt like they had an opportunity in every single lane, and they took that and they ran with it. And Max, the way that they went about this series just goes to show that they have multiple win conditions. Balkan, absolute freak on every single champion that he gets. And even Winterer is starting to step up and try and fight the mantle for best top laner that we've got here in the LCO.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head there. They can just play everything. I mean, we saw games where Winterer is getting weak-sided. He's respecting, they're making proactive teleports to be able to protect him on those plays. And then when Winterer has a matchup where he can dive, they're going for it. So I think what makes this team so scary is the fact that they're not afraid to play so many different styles, and they've looked so good on every single one of them.
Yeah, it's really spooky when we look towards this upper bracket final we've got between the Chiefs and PGG now, Skimmy. This is a form that's going to be very, very hard for even the Chiefs to start to break, because we've seen the way that PGG have been playing around so many of these different champions, and what a time for them to hit their stride right at the start of playoffs.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you look at the side of Chiefs and you would say they outright are the best in their roles, but now you've got the likes of Winterer, Balkan, even Predif now challenging their counterparts and saying, am I second or can I just do better? Can I beat you? Can I take that mantle and claim it back as our own? And certainly, I mean, with the performance they delivered there, they've already said themselves, Chippy's already came out publicly and said, we believe it's going to be us against Chiefs in that grand final. And it's certainly looking like a done deal after that performance.
I mean, they're certainly making a statement for that series up against the Chiefs in a little while's time, because right now making it a 3-0 sweep, you know, a lot of people, when they look at these 5 teams, you probably would say the top 3 have a little bit of that extra gap in between Order and Direwolves, and now it means that Pentanet.gg have really been able to separate themselves from PC Max. And I mean, I'm just amped to see what this next playoff series is going to look like with Pentanet.gg versus the Chiefs.
Yeah, I honestly think, Luke, that will be one of, if not the best series in this entire playoffs, right? Potentially a grand finals preview. I think given PGG's current form, I think it is very likely that we see them again. But versing the Chiefs, you know, I mean, they took out the win last time in their best of 1, so I think that will be such a highly competitive best of 5, and it's just going to be so great to watch.
And it's going to be gnarly. But I think on the other side of the coin as well, Skim, we still have to talk about Peace, right? Obviously, they came into this series, I would say probably the underdogs for everybody here on the desk, and they came into it. And there still is a few things that they need to work out. You know, going into this, I think Tien certainly had probably one of his worst performances he's had in a long time here on these stage games. And I think looking forward for the rest of these series, you know, maybe trying to corral behind him a little bit more and try and elevate him towards the standard that we know he can play at.
Yeah, and I think they've had a bit of an identity shift throughout the split, right? Trying to figure out who do we play towards as our carry. At first, it felt like, you know, you bring in Tien as that carry top laner, right? In a meta where it was all about lethal tempo AD carries. I don't think they expected Cheon to hit his stride as quickly as he did. He came in, right, got pentakills up against the Chiefs, got 16 kills in that one game, right? But it's been a bit of a lopsided affair really from that point onwards, right? Where Lisa's saying, do I invest towards Tien? Do I invest towards Cheon? What does it look like? And ultimately in this series, you know, both fell behind and it was too much.
Yeah, a few questions that need to be answered here for Peace as they move in towards that lower bracket and have their backs against the wall to try and fight, stay alive here in the LCO. But we've got Kitty on the sidelines, so let's bring her in. Let's have a chat to her about this series. Kitty, 3-0 for Pentanet. A lot of people did talk about here on the desk. Is that what everybody expected?
Well, definitely what me and Max expected, because we were the only ones that put down a 3-0 for this series. So, you know, learn from the best, learn from the challenger players, might I add. But I brought in the man, the myth, the translator, the undoubtedly MVP of the series, Winter, for this interview. So, monster performance in tonight's series, the perfect 3-0. Walk me through why PG actually defaulted to saving last pick for top lane in all of these games.
We last pick because Peace is heavy topside team. So if I counter pick the top side, we felt they have nothing to do. So yeah.
Well, that's exactly what we saw, but after showing significant growth from the previous year, how would you actually say you've improved as a reflection for yourself?
At the start of the year, actually I wasn't really improved at all, but after TP's joined the team and he told me all the secret sauce about top lane, I think I'm on like different level now.
Well, as a player who gets autofilled to top lane sometimes, can you share some of that secret sauce for me?
I think just dodge if you're autofill. Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind next time I get autofill to top. But speaking about chippies, do you have anything to say to your coach from those immaculate drafts we saw?
I don't really have anything to say other than I love you.
Well, we got a nice confession coming out of Winter. Well, do you have anything to say to your teammates after such a good performance as well?
Hope you guys have a good sleep. That's pretty much it.
Well, hopefully you have a great night's sleep as well, because you are going against the Chiefs tomorrow. Is it tomorrow? Well, you guys are going up against the Chiefs, so what do you think of the matchup as we head into more games tomorrow?
I think every lane will be like pretty much equal, so I'm expecting 3-2 on any of the sides. Yeah. Chiefs is a really good team.
Well, thank you for your prediction. I will be yoinking that for my prediction tomorrow. I'm going to let you go, Winter, and rest up for tomorrow's big game.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of these players are really starting to feel like that this Chiefs versus Pentanet GG match is going to be intense and going to be full 5 games as well. So I'm excited to see how that does pan up. But I'm also glad that Wintero didn't start that interview staring down the camera, because I don't know if I could see him seeing into my soul a little bit deeper than what he has so far. Because, I mean, the way that he performed in this series so far, he has been an absolute menace on the Rift. And I think going in towards that Chiefs series is certainly going to be somebody that everybody gets to look forward to. But that means it is time for us to talk about our Dare MVP here, ladies and gentlemen. This is for the entire series as well. Before we start getting into this, lads, ladies, what do we got? Skimmy, who do you feel like?
Well, I mean, I brought it up in game 1, right, with Max, and I was saying it's either between Winter and Balkan, and I felt like that theme carried on true the entire series. For me, I feel like Winter just takes it because he was shown the pick priority to shut down TM, which is a mammoth undertaking. He did it. He popped off in every single game, and was a big reason they won. So I think as a comprehensive idea, I feel like he gets it.
Yeah, well, exactly right there, Skimmy. It is going to be Winterer that is going to be our Dare MVP here. He has been smurfing it up in the Rift so far, an absolute standout performance. These stats are from all 3 of these matches as well, by the way, Kitty. He has been absolutely putting some big numbers up. 17, 7, and 30 across 3 games is insane.
74% kill participation on a top laner, might I add. He did have the Jace for the second game where he was putting that poke for those dragon objectives. And if we look at the damage share, he has 28%, which is kind of lowered by the Malphite, but I don't even think it was lowered by the Malphite because he did do more damage than Balkan's Lee Sin, so maybe that even buffered it. But we do see the wards plays, 38, not a lot. But when you are the carry for the team, we are playing towards the top side when we saw PGG playing. He doesn't need to ward because you always got the boys as your wards.
Yeah, ward schmords when it comes to the top lane here for Mr. Winterer. The fact that he was able to have such a standout performance here, Max, just goes to show that Pentanet.gg really do have a strong kind of core 5, and I'm excited to see what they can do for the rest of the playoffs and even going in towards Split 2.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the secret sauce from Chippies. There's a direct quote there. I think what really stood out to me was 28% damage share on 19% of his team's gold. So that gap of like almost 9% in what he was able to just make up just of how good he is and how well he was playing those games. Absolutely crazy. I think this guy is certainly top 2 best in the league, and I think his matchup versus Top Boon is really going to give us a clash of the 2 best top laners in the league.
It's going to be a bit of a highlight for everybody tomorrow, but you guys have to wait and see for that. Right now, it is time for us to talk about From the Fans. We've got some more submissions here, so let's throw up the first one here onto your screens and have a look about it and have a yarn about it as well. Skimmy, mate, talk us through this one. Give us a rate out of 10. How are you feeling?
Well, this is slightly before my time, but I do recognize a few players. I actually get to see, I believe it was Seb and Crazy when they played in the OCS split that I did with Juves. Way back in 2020, but no, this seems like a bit of a throwback to, I want to say like 2017, maybe 2018. I believe they're on a team with also another player called Tegan, if I remember correctly, for Exile 5. So, yeah, a bit of a throwback. Whether or not Max knows more about this than me. Yeah, otherwise I'm sure Rusty can have a bit of a laugh at this one.
Yeah, I'm sure there's... Oh, go Max. Go.
I have no clue. I would just like to say.
Oh, well, I actually have some input.
No idea.
Although I was 12 for this match, 528, who was a pro player back in the OPL days, he's also a really good animator. So if you go on YouTube and search 528, you can see some really premium animations that kind of TLDR the entire OPL journey and the old teams that we used to have. Seb, he also, he's retired now. I believe everyone on the team's actually retired, but Crazy used to be an ADC player where he had to roll swap to support because I believe they were lacking someone. So I really like this roster in general. It's just a nostalgic throwback.
Damn, Kitty's got the info here when it comes to these teams. Let's throw up the second one. Let's have a yarn about this one as well before we get ourselves ready for our second series of tonight. I spy with my little eye, a spicy little mid laner here. So Max, why don't you walk us through this one?
Look, I think having Sport in the top lane immediately makes it so you can't have above a 3 out of 10 for this roster. I think, look, obviously the O's talent, in terms of broadcasting, we'd give this to 15 out of 10. In terms of actual gameplay, Skimmy, I'd have to give it a 2.
Yeah, I don't know about this one. Hey, this feels like, you know, OPL meets LPL. Bit of a throwback to that old clash of sort of when they're all, you know, doing that job together. I'd love to see what they would look like on the Rift, absolutely. I feel like Rusty will say to you, you know, back when he had hands, I'm a mid laner, but nowadays he's much more on the support bandwagon.
All-Star match, question mark? Maybe we might look towards to see if we can get this one sorted. We've got one more to talk about here, so let's get into it so we can have a chat about another one of these OS All-Stars of all time. Oh, look at this one. Kitty, talk us to this one.
Pabu, well, he's made quite a name for himself after going to MSI with that neon green hair. And Fudge, who has Max has already mentioned him role swapping to the mid lane, so I believe he's also really cracked at mid lane. We saw the Soraka mid coming out. And Chippies, you know, if he can teach all that to Winter, then what did Chippies look like during his prime time? He also went to Worlds, I believe, 2 times. And FBI being the first ADC exported to NA, also really a huge achievement. And Ayla following up a few years later with his support.
So this one seems like it's a little bit of a crack squad. So what are you giving this one as a score out of 10, Kitty?
I would give it a good 9 out of 10.
Ooh, okay. So we've had some pretty high numbers for everyone here today. So I'm excited to see, you know, I mean, somewhere down the track, maybe we could even try and get some All-Star match that goes forward with some of these OS All-Star teams. That'd be sick, by the way, if everyone could get that together. I'm sure everybody in the back room right now, the LCO, is sweating bullets trying to get all those players together to try and play a game here. But either way, it is enough from us here on the desk. We've got another break to get to. We've got another series to get to as well. We're going to be saying goodbye to Skimmy and Max here. We're going to be saying hello to 2 fine gentlemen who are going to take you through our final series. It's going to be our little bracket series as well. We've got Order and Dials going head-to-head in a best of 5, so make sure you guys don't miss it.
They're on to 2, as the Gale Falls might have been enough to try and get Chen out of harm's way. Balkan's looking to just solo kill him. As now they run down the stragglers from the side of Peace. Tien has no money, he's got a blast cone, but he's got a Malphite right on his head, chucking pebbles and throwing stones. Sticks and stones certainly will break his bones.
Oh, just filthy team fighting there from PGG, especially from Balkan. I mean,
he's down to 50%, the Solar Flare on top of one man's head. Tien goes in. He's just going to fall on down though. He's completely isolated from the rest of the team. Yuri jumps in as well. Going to try and flex his pipe in this game. Cheon surviving by the skin of his teeth, but he's gone out of this fight, as are Peace chances of pulling off the miracle reversal in a game number 2. The poke from the Jace with the Hex Tech Soul on top of everything, that alone was a 1v9, as they are going to find the ace and close out for a 2-0. So a minute countdown on this third dragon of the game. A potential collapse upon in the team fight, as they've been caught running away straight into their side of the jungle. Beast is deleted, and that's all they need, as Lisa's down to 30%. Yuri's teasing the idea of another kill. He lands the charm match. He really does it.
This
Ari
Ari,
summon the Herald.